shattered dreams, end of times.
Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, March 27th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition. We have a very special guest on the line from Geopolitics and Empire, Hrvoje Moric. I know I screwed it up, but close. We're blessed to have him on the line to go over the events of the day, give us some geopolitical analysis, and talk about the empire. What is going on here today? The quick hooks. We got this crazy, it's insulting, honestly. White House faith advisor Paula White is now asking for $1,000 donations for Easter. We got the video. We'll play that as the segue. It's just, I don't even know what to say, man. It just makes me sick. And a lot of well-meaning people are going to fall for this scam con job. It's like, it's disgusting. Remember Trump was selling the Bibles, another disgusting act. But the big news of the day, U.S. pauses funding to World Trade Organization. They did the same with the World Health Organization. All that's sorting out. It's not fully stopped yet, because if you actually go read the article, they say, I think, until April, and then they're going to have another meeting and decide, and so on. So these things do take a while to unravel, if indeed we are getting out of these world organizations. The whole signal scandal turns out the CEO of NPR, Catherine Marr, she sits on the board of Signal. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. She wouldn't have anything, with leaking those contacts. And we're still looking to see what is happening with that. Was it a setup by the Trump administration? Are they just very lax in their security, to say the least? Will anyone ever get in trouble for it? It doesn't look like it. 2 senators, U.S. senators, have put forth a bill to abolish the TSA. But instead of replacing it with nothing, they want to replace it with private security. So we got that to go over a little bit about how do you like being date raped at the airport and never finding any terrorists. We got Bobby Kennedy Jr. on television on the Fox News admitting that he was on Epstein's plane twice. So that may be a key insight into some of his actions now as head of HHS. Other back and forth about the government, the crime syndicate, the empire that we know as the United States federal government. Back and forth there. And then, of course, we have geopolitical news. We have what is going on with, we got a word from NATO. We got a word from Putin. We got a word from Canada. Canada's all fired up now. It looks like, I guess we're in a trade war with Canada now. Canada's fired up, man. As I know, Barry is fired up too. And then, of course, Aardvark genocide news continues. We got a word from the King of England as well, King Charles. The genocide news continues. And I still can't believe we're going to play this again. I didn't even know, and we've been reporting on this almost every day. 100 strikes. It was confirmed yesterday by the White House. Over 100 strikes on the Houthis there in Yemen. Nobody even cares. Congress doesn't care. Nobody cares. And we're bombing the hell out of Yemen. I'm still shocked, but I guess I shouldn't be. But I'm like, damn, man. No, and nobody, Congress, we're chasing Signalgate instead of worrying about over 100 bombings with no congressional anything. Like, what is going on here, man? There are massive protests there in Aardvark land pushing against our shadow president, Netanyahu. But I guess they would be deemed anti-Semitic as well. So anything against the Aardvark regime there is deemed bad, even if it's by other Aardvarks, is how it goes now. And so maybe they'll be arrested and deported. The United States here, ICE deported this, was she, a Fulbright scholar They like walked up to her on the street and got her because she was she was protesting the Gaza war there. And so they hemmed up this, where's she from? Turkey, a Turkish scholar, a Fulbright scholar, and she's been hemmed up and deported now, it looks like, or they're attempting to deport her. It's getting crazy, man. It's getting crazy. And the thumbnail, which kind of looks racist to me, I don't know, but it was posted by the White House, and they did tie it into a real bust that ICE made on an alleged fentanyl dealer. And so we'll show both pictures, but the cartoon by itself, out of context, looks racist, honestly. But when you put it in context and you see the actual fentanyl dealer, then you could see it a little bit more in context, like I say. Anyway, all that and much more on this edition of Weaponized News. Oh, yeah, and we got Barry. We're going to play Barry because I keep promising him I haven't been playing it, but we got one of Barry's protest videos doing his civil duty there in Canada, a flashback, I want to say like 2012, something. Yeah, 2012. Barry goes to Oshawa City Council and does his civic duty as a good taxpaying citizen and calling out his government. So we'll play that at the end to play us out. Thank you very much, Barry, for all of your efforts there. And I have a side story at the end. I'll tell about my efforts to talk to my local county board of supervisors to no avail, which kind of blackpills you in that once you go and do all this hard work for free as a volunteer, as a concerned citizen, as a taxpayer, and they literally just laugh in your face. And so I will tell that story at the end, coinciding with Barry's activism up there in Oshawa at the city council there, or the city council. Okay. Quickly, this day in history, going back to the year 1003, a peace deal is signed between Holy Roman Emperor Henry II and the pagan wins the Slavs. So, they were at war. They're killing the pagans. A Holy Roman Empire. In 1625, Charles I ascends to the throne to be King of England, Charles I. In 1668, control of Bombay was given to the East India Trading Company by King Charles II. In 1836, on this day, the first Mormon temple is dedicated in Kirtland, Ohio. In 1863, American Confederate President Jefferson Davis calls for a day of fasting and prayer for the nation. In 1866, American Andrew Rankin patents the urinal. In 1884, the first long-distance telephone call was made, and you could bet that they were tapping that line, the government, even back then. The first long-distance phone call was made between Boston and New York on this day. In 1915, for all you fans of public health detention, as I am as well, I'm sure I know our fans of the show are as well. Typhoid Mary in 1915 was arrested, and let me get to the rest of the details here. So I had another one that I was too lazy, honestly, to write on my notes, but it is on this day in history for me. 1915. Did I lose it? On the wrong day. What happened here? Cut and pasting here. Okay, let me try to get to it. Excuse me. Sorry for this delay. There it is. Typhoid Mary Maulon was her real name, was arrested and returned to quarantine in North Brother Island, New York, after spending 5 years evading health authorities and causing several further outbreaks of typhoid, allegedly. So wouldn't we all be better if we just turned ourselves into the humanitarian quarantine camps now for public health safety? Yes, indeed we would be. Okay, all the way now, 1930. On this day in 1930, we saw the first U.S. radio broadcast from a ship at sea. In 1973, Grateful Dead frontman Jerry Garcia was arrested for LSD after being pulled over for speeding. The drug was found in his possession. In 1980, Mount St. Helens erupts on this day, and we're still collecting carbon tax from Mount St. Helens for all that CO2 that was emitted upon the eruption. And in 2020, we're still paying for it today, and good old Trump made a joke of it. On this day in 2020, Trump signs the $2.2 trillion with a T stimulus package, largest in U.S. history. And quoting Trump, he said, upon signing it, "I never signed anything with a T on it. Ha, ha, ha." And we're still paying for all of that great stimulus today through inflation caused by that and other means, in large part due to the medical intervention and the big lockdown. So with that, we're going to play our segue and bring on our guest. Again, White House faith advisor Paula White says those who give $1,000 or more before Easter will receive 7 supernatural blessings. Couldn't hear it because I screwed up on the share screen. Too much going on. Let me replay that and try it again. I apologize. This is worth hearing again. Sorry about that. I didn't push share audio.
And I believe that when you honor God on Passover, starting on April 12th at sundown through Good Friday on the 18th and concluding on Easter Sunday, you can receive these 7 supernatural blessings for you and your house. According to Exodus 23, God will assign an angel to you. He'll be an enemy to your enemies. He'll give you prosperity. He'll take sickness away from you. He will give you long life. He'll bring increase in inheritance, and he'll give a special year of blessing. You're not doing this to get something, but you're doing it in honor to God, realizing what you can receive.
For your special Passover offering of $1,000 or more as the Holy Spirit leads, you will also receive the beautiful 10-inch Waterford Crystal Cross. Don't miss your moment to release 7 supernatural blessings and provision into your life.
How you doing today, sir?
Doing all right. What's happening?
Have you given your $1,000 to Paula White?
Oh man, you know, I'm a Christian myself, and what I just witnessed was absolutely demonic. I mean, I think Christians have to be careful sometimes when we judge others according to the book, but I think we can definitely say, according to the book, this person is the furthest thing you can get, the furthest you can get from Christianity. I don't know what it is. It's sorcery. It's demonic. It's, the shameful prosperity gospel. I've got no words, for my disgust. So.
For $1,000 or more, you can get 7 blessings of Passover. Assign an angel to you. Be an enemy to your enemies. Give you prosperity. The prosperity gospel there. Take sickness away. Give you long life, cause increase for you, a special year of blessings.
I mean, why do I need her for that? I can just talk to God directly. It's like, what is this?
That's Trump's spiritual advisor. It's just like, yeah, it's blasphemy. And Trump's selling the Bibles too, man. He was selling the Bibles, and now this. But there's a lot of videos of her. Just it's disgusting, honestly.
I mean, I was shocked to discover. I was back in 2023. I went to a Ron Paul Institute conference in Texas, and after I came back to Mexico, I live in Mexico. I discovered that right next to the hotel where the conference was and where we stayed was Joel Osteen's mega church. And if I had known, I would have stayed an extra day just to see this madness. And then someone told me later, apparently Joel Osteen charges money, like $30 to enter the church. Like you can't get in without paying money. This is what I heard. So anyways, it's absolutely crazy.
Isn't that what Jesus flipped over the money changer's table for charging to get entrance into the temple?
Yep.
Oh my God. I don't even know what to say to these people, man. But a lot of people are going to be suckered in by this and give her money because they're Trump fans. And it's just despicable. Okay. Anyway, my check's in the mail already to Paula White. Bless her soul. Okay. Today is Major League Baseball. For those that follow that sport, I really don't, but it's Major League Baseball opening day. And Major League Baseball had a major outage of its Major League Baseball app, and fans are upset. And so anyway, I had to dig through all the news of baseball's opening day trying to find the real news. So anyway, I came across that, and happy opening day to baseball fans out there. And there is a connection between baseball and the diamond and Freemasonry. We don't have time to go into it today, but maybe we'll go into it on another show for those interested in that. Okay, U.S. suspends funding to World Trade Organization, or pauses funding. What do you make of this? Is the United States getting out of the World Trade Organization? Is this just a pause? Like, what do you think? Reuters first broke this story today.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. And my off the cuff sort of reaction is, I don't, despite some of these news items such as this or that we've heard previously, Trump has paused funding to the World Homicide Organization, WHO. I just do not see this trend of moving towards world governments reversing. And either this is just part of this whole funding thing, DOGE cutting expenditures, and then they'll unpause it at some future point, most likely. But we had the development, you must have commented on it already over the weekend, about King Charles III, who I heard this morning he was, I think, sent to the hospital because of. We
have that report, a couple reports from Annan blessing the Muslims over there for Ramadan. A little late. It's like over, but
that too. But I see the connection here with the WTO, where Charles invited Trump to join the U.S. to join the British Commonwealth, and for the longest time, and separate, we're seeing this move towards North American integration, North American Union, and joining the U.S., joining the Commonwealth. That reminds me a lot of Clarence Strait from 1939, who was a globalist who proposed Atlantic Union, and he said that would start with, to create this Atlantic Union, which would be the basis for world union. Take the British Commonwealth and make a global form world government. And he said it would begin with Britain integrating with USA and Canada. And I just see a lot of sort of overlap with all this talk of integrating Canada, USA, and Mexico, and Panama, and Greenland. Meanwhile, you got the EU, and then now they're talking about Britain and US linking up. You just kind of see this spider web coming together. And so
it's MAGA, man. Don't worry about it. It's America. It's America.
5D chess, guys. 5D chess.
5D chess. No, yeah, it does look like all these dots are starting to connect. It was very concerning to be putting the U.S. back underneath the UK Commonwealth. Like, what the hell is going on here? But it's all good. America first. Have you been following? I have not really covered it that much. Just read some of the headlines into it. The Signal Gate What is up with the Signal Gate? Do you care? Have you followed it at all? Do you think it's real, fake? What are your thoughts on Signal Gate? Of course, that's the leak of alleged war plans, bombing of Yemen specifically, to the Atlantic editor Goldberg, by the way, and he was a former IDF member of the IDF, coincidentally enough. And then now we find out this woman, Kathleen Marr, sits on Signal board, and she's the CEO of NPR. Does any of this make a difference? Will anybody get in trouble? What do you think?
Yeah, I saw it. I didn't find it as interesting. The one thing is Signal. I don't trust any of these apps. I saw.
Didn't it come? I could have swore I reported on it like a year ago that Signal was not secure. Like it was linked to intelligence agencies having access to it, and there was like a warning: "Hey, it's not secure, encrypted as you may think is advertised."
No, and I've been at alt media events where there was one time I was at a libertarian conference in Mexico, and there was this couple that were kind of odd looking back now, and they were going to have a gathering after the after party, and they wanted everyone. The only way to communicate to join was through Signal. Just a lot of strange stuff, but Nicole Shanahan, I saw a clip of her where she gave an interview, and just today I saw the clip, and she's basically saying that all of Silicon Valley was created by the government, Google, Facebook, you name it. And so regarding the Signal story,
I thought they made it in their garage. That's what I was told. I was told Bill Gates built Microsoft in his garage. Zuckerberg built Facebook in his college dorm room, right? That's a story we're told.
I can give you that. Well, here's the exact quote from Shanahan, because I just posted it. She says, she's talking about tech, the wives of the tech dudes, and she says, what I realize is the government helped fund their tech husband at some point along the way. If you look at the history of Google, Facebook, Apple, she says not so much Amazon, but I don't believe her. But even HP, Oracle, these companies didn't just spring up out of nowhere. They came through institutional backing. In the case of Facebook, Google especially, there's this Silicon Valley, Stanford network. And if you look at where some of the money came from, it came from individuals that had government ties. These companies serve government functions. Google was involved with the government to help in helping identify behavior on the internet, and Facebook as well. So really not news to folks who listen to this stream, but just going back to Signal, it did seem like Tulsi Gabbard, she's flipped. She's sort of defending now the surveillance state. And I thought it was pretty embarrassing for her that hearing, one thing, was it the CIA director? He was mentioning that use of Signal was approved by the CIA. I think the most interesting analysis here was from Brian Berletic out in Thailand, if you know him, Brian Berletic. He on his Telegram posted, he said, either these guys were stupid or this was done intentionally, this leak. I'm thinking that they're not this stupid, that this was intentional. And his reasoning was this was almost certainly done deliberately with the likely purpose to make the U.S.-Europe split, quote, more convincing to the Russians, and also to convince the world Yemen is about freedom of navigation and not as a means of deliberately escalating war in the region toward a provoking war with Iran. So that seems to make the most sense.
I thought it could have. I was hearing the Duke report and George Webb talking about it, and they were saying that it could potentially be a setup to figure out who was spying on the new Trump administration as well. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's hard to say, or maybe it has to do with some of the globalist machinations to do with encryption and digital IDs and that sort of thing. So
we need more secure than because your stuff never gets hacked, even though everything's been hacked already. Okay, what do you make? I know you love the TSA as I do. Free groping at the airport. You don't even have to buy them a drink. They've never caught a terrorist since 9/11. A bill has been introduced by Senator Mike Lee and Tommy Tuberville to abolish the TSA, but they also proposed replacing it with private security at airports. What do you think of this idea?
Could you just repeat that? Because I was My electricity was snapping on and off. So if I disappear, you'll know why. Hopefully it doesn't. But
If you guys would pay your tariffs in Mexico, this wouldn't be happening, man. No, I was saying about the TSA bill introduced by Mike Lee and Tuberville
to get rid of it,
to abolish the TSA and replace it with private security at airports.
I mean, it depends. I'd happily get rid of the TSA, but what does it mean that private security? You know, I hate going through the U.S. I've traveled around the world, and it's night and day when you travel through the Mexican security. It's easy, you know, and through the U.S., they literally treat you like a terrorist. But you know, my fear, I feel, you know, here's a story that I found that I don't know if you caught it with Christy Noam, that's kind of linked to the TSA thing, which has to do with FEMA. Have you heard about the FEMA story?
She's proposing abolish FEMA, yeah.
Right. And so I'm wondering, okay, that's interesting. But, you know, one of my biggest focuses is tracking the technocracy, the algocracy, the social credit sort of system, the algorithm ghetto. And you think about it, you know, does that mean we're not going to be sent to FEMA camps anymore? But I think in some ways you don't need FEMA camps anymore because of the social credit system. You know, we're not going to be needed to be sent physically to camps in this sort of Minority Report world. And so I could see, you know, it's obviously the TSA sucks, we should get rid of it. But as we move into this sort of surveillance state, those sort of legacy systems maybe become less important, because if they got the facial recognition,
they already got your profile before you even show up there,
right? And so they can just with a button, okay, deny your access. You know, they don't need TSA anymore. Just like, you know, the whole DOGE thing is like getting rid of everyone's cheering on ending Voice of Voice of America, Radio Liberty, USAID, and it's like they don't need that anymore. It's like it's not going away. It's not, you know, Twitter and X and YouTube, Pentagon Tube and DARPA LifeLog are more effective. That's what they're using. And, you know, whatever else is coming in through the pipe, AI agents that are going to be embedded.
AI government.
Right. And all our, you know, Windows 11 smartphones are going to have these, what are they, like AI agents that they will have access to sift through all of the data. So it's like, you don't need TSA, you don't need FEMA, you don't need nothing, because now we are in this, you know, algocracy. So that's kind of how I would make sense.
Bill Gates in the article yesterday was saying that we don't need humans. In 10 years, there's going to be 3 jobs.
I saw that, and the first thing I thought was Twilight Zone, the episode of the obsolete man.
I saw you posted it on your X.
And so if you know, once you're deemed obsolete, you are marked for death. You are disposed of. So.
And it hasn't, and they've been, and we know that's been the agenda the entire time, is their depopulation, right? Their I can't even think of the guy. What the heck's the guy's name? The English economist Malthus. They're following the Malthusian philosophy that the world's overpopulated. We're going to run out of resources, and so therefore we have to get rid of the useless eaters so we can continue on. And it seems they are still following that same type of ideology today.
Oh, I mean, no doubt. I was just during lunch today, I was listening to this, I don't have it with me, this podcast. It's an popular expat podcast from Latin America. And this guy was talking about how he's seeing now an increase of children, autistic children in Latin America. I think he lives in Guatemala. And he said previously you almost saw none of that. And, you know, he talked about the GMO foods, you know, the toxic foods. I don't know why he didn't mention how do we say this?
The miracles.
The miracles. And so, you know, even you're seeing that sort of spread to, you know, United States is ground zero for autism because they get the most miracles, right? 70 plus on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas other countries are much less, but now you're starting to see in places like Mexico, where they're just pushing these miracles and more kids are getting autism and this sort of thing. And so, I mean, I was shocked. You know, we homeschool our kids, and you know, I didn't even have to teach my kid how to ride a bike. Like she's already bilingual, the kid, English and Spanish, and she's homeschooled, so she's already like advanced in those regards to the public school kids, and she just hopped on a bike and started riding without the training wheels. It's like, and she's organic, no miracles, and so it's kind of like when you compare.
That's pretty good, man. That's
Yeah.
pretty good. So we're seeing it pop up everywhere. I thought it was big yesterday. They announced no more funding for essentially overseas miracles. But I think they're going to come back with something else. Like you say, they're getting rid of the old system, the antiquated system, and updating it here now. And we're living through it. And it looks like, yeah, cheered on, they're downsizing government. But be careful what you wish for, because they got something even worse on the other end of this.
Yeah, I didn't hear that news, but they're onboarding the mRNA stuff. I'm from Illinois originally, and Alex Newman, he wrote a piece on how in Illinois, for example, they're not coming after homeschoolers. They're trying to pass a new law where if you're homeschooling, you're gonna have to now get all the homeschool kids registered in the database, and then they're gonna have to abide by certain rules. And then I don't doubt that someday here in places like Mexico, that will come as well. And so when you mentioned the miracles,
is it mandated to attend public school there?
I'm not actually sure. The thing with Mexico,
here where I'm in California, and it's mandated to attend any public, private, any school in this state. You have to follow the full CDC schedule, and that was passed in 2015.
No, we still have in Mexico freedom. Our kid was born in the house, home birth, and homeschooling, and no one's bothering us. But yeah. So, but globalism is alive and well in Mexico. They're city by city.
You guys have a Hispanic president there, though, don't you?
Yes, I'm learning your new word, aardvark, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I want to say that is irrelevant to the game, because the presidents before her were actual CIA agents. That's documented. I've interviewed Jefferson Morley, who's declassified those documents. A number of
What? I didn't know that. So
you're
saying Mexico president was CIA agent? So,
well, not maybe not every single one, but I've got the book behind me. It's called Our Man in Mexico. Jefferson Morley, he's in the news now for the JFK leaks. He's a leftist. He does some good stuff. He's not as hardcore as he should be, but he wrote the book. So it's about Winston Scott, who opened the CIA office in Mexico City in the 50s. And Jefferson Morley worked with the son of Winston Scott, and they declassified the files, which showed that a number of Mexican presidents were CIA agents, and they had code names Litempo, like Litempo 5, Litempo 6. And so Diaz Ordaz, Echeverria, up until now, officially, at least 4 presidents have been proven to be CIA agents. But my point is, going back to Scheinbaum, AMLO, López Obrador, was openly, like, he had a tweet where he said, "We want world government," and he kept repeating himself over the years, saying we need to copy the EU and to create a North American Union, Canada, USA, and Mexico. And then Scheinbaum coming along, it's like it's irrelevant whether she's aardvark or not. It's
I just find it striking for her to be the head of the government there, of a bunch of Mexicans or Hispanics, whatever you want to call them, and then she's not that, right? So it's just it would be the same if it's whatever white lady, and be like, wait a minute, that doesn't represent the people of Mexico,
Yeah, but I mean, she was born here. I'm not sure if her parents, I think they emigrated, but and she's married to a Mexican.
Didn't a bunch of people die in assassinations leading up to that election there in Mexico?
That I don't believe that it had nothing. I mean, that had nothing to do with the presidential election, and that's just usual for Mexico. You had like 30 to 40 politicians countrywide, mayors, lower level political functionaries taken out, and that's more to do with the cartels.
So when are you running for office there in Mexico?
I don't think I can. So I'm a natural. I actually looked at this because I'm a former international relations professor, and I thought about, would it be possible for me to apply for the Mexican Foreign Service, for example? And I'm a naturalized Mexican, and so I'm not there are limits. As a naturalized Mexican, I can't. And anyways, I wouldn't, because to do anything real in Mexican politics, you'll be basically shot in the head. So, I was just like, yeah, what's the point? I'm just gonna, if I just can kill me, and I might as well do something else, sell tacos or something,
Okay, continuing here. Do you think, when I first saw this, I was like, that is racist, and I'm not a big racism pusher, but take a look at this from the White House. They posted this today from the White House official X account. What do you think of this?
Well,
I was like, that does look kind of racist. You know what I mean? I was like, what the? But then, to put it in context, they're referencing this woman, I guess, allegedly, that they say is a fentanyl dealer that they busted. Virginia Basora Gonzalez was a previously deported alien felon convicted of fentanyl trafficking, is who this cartoon is referring to. But they didn't put it in context, really. I had to click through and figure out what is going on here. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I always find that the globalists put us always between a rock and a hard place, two bad options. And so obviously, I think something has to be done about people illegally in the country. That's true.
And fentanyl dealing, right?
Right. But then on the other hand, I interviewed on my podcast many years ago this guy called Todd Miller, who wrote a fantastic book about what he calls the border industrial complex. And he says, a lot of us were sold this story about Trump and the wall and all that. And he's like, and this guy's a leftist, but his work is actually very good. He says it's all a sham. It's all a uniparty, bipartisan system. And this border wall, it doesn't matter Republican or Democrat, they're both throwing money at it and building it up. And it's AI, drones and towers and surveillance. And he says it's being scaffolded around the world. So now you're seeing UK just activated it, the EU, the US, and the US has offices all across the planet trying to help other countries activate these systems. And it's truly a prison planet, because they're creating these entry-exit systems now. I read in Canada.
Is it to keep illegals out or to keep us in?
It's exactly. So they're using the pretext now of the illegals to set up these systems of digital ID and voter ID and it's exit entry. So it's gonna be strict permissions now for an American to ask permission to leave America, and then permission to go to your final destination. And so you had a case in UK recently. So UK activated what's called their electronic ETA, electronic travel authorization. So you need a visa for your visa now. So you used to be able just to buy a plane ticket and go to the UK, and maybe if it's American, you have like 30 days, 60 day, 90 day visa free, whatever travel. Now you have to file an ETA travel authorization. You have to pay £10 or $20, whatever. And then it's a social credit form. And you fill out this form and you wait for approval. It can take days, and it's thought crime. So basically they're evaluating you for thought crime. And so this guy, he was a big podcaster. He might be a Christian YouTuber and hundreds of thousands of followers. I don't know his name. And he was going to go to that ARC conference of Jordan Peterson, which I think ARC is just it's sort of a controlled opposition for WEF. But anyways, he spent $1,000 for all these conferences and planes, and he didn't know he had to file ETA. So he files it, and they deny him. And so he couldn't go to UK. And it's just the average guy. And now you see EU in October is activating, they're deploying the digital euro in October. And the same October, they're activating the entry-exit system. So when you go to EU, they take your eyeballs and fingerprints. And they have delayed the third part, which is the electronic travel authorization for EU. So you're going to have to fill out the form. And I'm sure they'll do, search your profile for any thought crimes. And for whatever reason, they can say, you know what, you're not approved. And so you'll never be able to go and see Rome or the Eiffel Tower or, none of that stuff. And so
if I put a Ukraine flag in my profile, will it be cool then?
And then, Israeli flag, a Ukraine flag, a rainbow flag. I don't know what other flag could be useful.
They're turning the screws on the lockdown as we speak, and the information war is continuing. We've been reporting Gavin Newsom, governor of California, started his own podcast. Michelle Obama has started her own podcast. Now the White House, so we got big competition over here for a little podcast trying to reach people. Now the White House has announced, let's play this short clip. The White House has announced they're starting their own podcast. Talk about straight up government propaganda. And of course, MAGA will eat it up.
Hey everybody, today is Podcast Row here at the White House, and our team has gathered a room full of podcasters with cabinet officials, White House officials who are talking to them about the president and his agenda. And I bet you the people in that room have much more viewers than CNN and the legacy media. Just saying.
They have much more viewers. Yeah, because they're being propped up by the state.
Well, I heard Michelle's podcast was dud. It didn't start out very well, and yeah, I mean, this is the new media. But I think I don't know how much you've discussed it. Alternative media is chock full of the security state operations. So
what I don't even know what you say to these people, man. It's just it's beyond the pale. Yeah, there's a lot of I don't even know what you call them, paid shills, government, they're just pro-government at the very least. And it's like, what happened to you people when the other guy or whatever, you were all against the government? Now you're supposed guy's in there. Now you love the government. Like no consistency at all. And so I see, and others do as well, they say it's immoral to use the violence of the state against your supposed enemies, regardless of who they are, on whatever left, right, or center. But both sides seem to have this problem. Whenever their guy gets in there, then they turn a blind eye to state violence, and we continue the cycle. It's bad.
yeah, I thought maybe I'll read this short excerpt from a recent article from C.J. Hopkins, who I've interviewed. So he's an old school leftist, and I think he really nails it. He's facing jail time for tweeting, insulting the German health minister. And he writes, quote, "The global ideological system we all live under is going totalitarian. That system is global capitalism, but call it what you want. I really don't give a shit. It's stripping away the simulation of democracy, which it does not need to maintain anymore. The Cold War is over. Communism's dead. Global capitalism has no external adversaries. So it doesn't need to placate the masses with democratic rights and freedoms. So it is gradually stripping away those rights and conditioning us to accept the loss of them. It's doing this by staging a series of emergencies, each featuring a different threat to democracy or to, quote, freedom, or, quote, America, or, quote, the planet, or whatever, each with its own particular, quote, monsters who are such a threat to freedom or whatever that we need to surrender our constitutional rights and make a mockery of democratic values, or otherwise the monsters will win. It's doing this by switching the face it wears from left to right, then back to left, and back to right, then left, and so on, because it needs our cooperation to do this. Not all of our cooperation at once, just one cooperative demographic at a time. It is succeeding at this. For example, the system is by instrumentalizing our fear and hatred. The system could not possibly care less whether we identify as left or right, but it needs us divided into left and right so that it can feed our fear and hatred of each other, one administration, one emergency, one war at a time. And so I think he really nails it there. And Germany seems to be the tip of the spear. I was reading this morning, I had the article open, but it now went paywalled. New coalition wants to ban lies. The deliberate dissemination of false factual claims is not covered by freedom of expression. One of my followers on my telegrams said, "Are we now moving to triple speak, double speak, triple speak?" It's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
Trump's bringing back freedom, man. I'm telling you. Okay. Yeah, the left-right paradigm, they love it because it and I've been saying that I think there is a difference at the grassroots level between people's ideology, but at the top, there ain't no difference. They're literally, it's all the same oligarchs laughing at us, look at these idiots fighting about their left, right, about free health care or whatever the issue of the day is that has us divided. And they're just sitting there laughing about it all.
I mean,
like that meme where it's like Reagan and the Bushes and I think like Warren Buffett, you know which one of them, and they're all sitting there drinking champagne, laughing, right?
No, it's that classic scene from that classic movie Network, right, where the TV presenter goes into the room with the corporate the head, and he says, you know, there's no more nations, don't even exist anymore. It's just,
and that's like 70s, right? That's like 76 or something. That movie was made.
I'd argue that was true way back then. And you know, I just someone shared with me. This is a quote from an Orthodox Christian elder, but I think it was so good. And this is from 2009, so what, 16 years ago. And he says, the devil has embodied this political system and fights against us through them more fiercely than ever. It is no longer a chosen rulership, but an anti-Christian one are hostile to Christ. If it opposes Christ, the voice of that ruling should no longer be obeyed. What kind of rulership is this that gives us poisoned bread to eat, that kills our children? And, you know, I think every single government on the planet now you can describe like that. They're literally trying to democide us, you know, whether through forcing us to take miracles, forcing our children to take miracles, to eat GMO foods, to, you know, I don't know what, you know, to this indoctrination to make our children think they should be another gender. They've all lost the plot. It's just like, I'm not obeying anymore.
The governments around the world don't represent the people. It's pretty clear at this point. They all walked in lockstep during the medical intervention period, but it seems like everybody's forgotten that, like, we're still in the Great Reset. That's what it seems like everybody forgot. But as far as I could tell, we're still in that phase of one world government agenda. We're just in a new phase now.
It's not gone away. I've had a few of my friends who are aware of a number of these things. I think this is their way to cope. They're saying, "Oh, you know, they've ceased. They're not they're making excuses, so they're not succeeding or whatever. They're not advancing anymore." And I'm like, you know, going back to what
the popular narrative out there in right-wing, quote, alternative media is that right-wing populists are winning all over the world. That's what you hear InfoWars saying. And it's like, they're not, dude. They're not. Stop lying to your audience. But that's the popular narrative out there.
No, I mean, yeah, I was just going to say, like a week or two ago, I check in on Alex Jones every once in a while just to see what he's saying. And I can't believe, like, he comes out, he's a cheerleader. He says, World Economic Forum has been defeated. We've defeated the globalists. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Just a few months ago, like they're bringing in all these, like, I'm speaking just from my experience here in Mexico. They're making city after city every week. They're announcing, oh, we're going to make that city in this state a 15-minute city. They're bringing in, we didn't have vehicle emissions until 2 years ago in Mexico. You didn't have to do vehicle emissions. Now I know people whose cars have been declared illegal. They can't drive their cars anymore. And it was like, oh, we're winning, right? 4 months ago.
Living in California, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's 4 months ago, I went to renew my debit card, which I've done many times with my official government ID, my U.S. passport and Mexican passport. And I went in 4 months ago, and this time they said, no, you can't renew it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I have my official, this is considered official government documentation ID, U.S. Mexican passport, U.S. passport. I mean, I got a third passport if you want. I actually said, here's my Croatian passport. And it's like, no, you can only now renew, the only ID that the bank will accept is the voter ID, the Mexican voter ID, because that's the most complete identification in Mexico, and they take your biometrics. So it's like the government was instructed by the UN to oblige banks and everyone else to only use that form of ID, because the UN has said they want to link your bank accounts to your digital ID. And I never got my Mexican voter card because I don't vote, and because I knew it was going to be used as the digital ID for Mexico. And now I can't renew my bank card, and so I have to go spend a day and get my Mexican voter ID card, which I'm going to see how long I can hold out. And so, but hey, the Davos has been defeated, guys. I can't take money out of my bank account, so I don't know.
Let's go to the one world government agenda is going to. They're going to fulfill it. They'll blow up the world trying to do it. Okay. And so because your president, whoever in the world got in there, don't think that it's been in the making since you could go back to the League of Nations at least, but they've always been trying to build this one world government. And don't think with everything they got invested, because even if Trump was the best, greatest patriotic America first guy ever and genuine, even if that was true, they would just wait out 4 years until they can get another guy in there. You know what I'm saying?
He'd be Kennedy. Come on, like
yeah,
it's like any true opposition would be Kennedy. And look what happened during the miracle years. How many politicians were Kennedy, right? In Africa, was it in Haiti as well? And it's just
Africa, like 4 or 5 that refused to go along with the WHO guidelines. They just mysteriously suddenly died.
No, Trump is a globalist, and the dissidents have fallen. They've been corralled back onto the farm. So.
That's a good transition to old Bobby Kennedy Jr. Our Seva at Maha is going to make America healthy again. Here he is on Jesse Waters admitting he was on Epstein's plane twice. Maybe there's something to it, or maybe he was just, I don't know. Let's hear this.
You weren't ever on Jeffrey Epstein's jet, were you?
I was on Jeffrey Epstein's jet 2 times.
What? What? But I'm sure they were talking about, health food diets on that jet.
Yeah, I just caught a photo. This may have been shared previously. I have it on my desktop here still. It's a photo of Trump, media mogul Robert Maxwell, Steve Ross, and Mike Wallace, CBS reporter. But Robert Maxwell, I forget. I mean, isn't that just Ghislaine's Maxwell's dad or whatnot? And so, there's photos of Trump with Epstein as well. And so it's one big club, and we ain't in it. And RFK, I mean, he's flip-flop now. He's flip-flop. So now he's promoting the mRNA stuff, and he went from hardcore to softcore now, like to I don't know what's going on. When you get close to that ring of power, Tulsi, same thing with Tulsi, same thing with any of these folks, most of these folks. It's like Lord of the Rings. You think you can you want that ring. There was that scene, I think, in the opening where they defeat was it Sauron the first time, and one of the men wants to hold the ring, and he's like, it's not going to corrupt me, and then ends up corrupting him. And so, yeah.
I don't know, man. It feels like the only way you even get in there is to be blackmailed.
That, or, I studied my master's degree of international relations was in Geneva at the Geneva School of Diplomacy. And a lot of my classmates were children of diplomats, fancy folks. That whole world of politics and diplomacy, the majority, 50+%, are super just opportunist narcissists. And in my view, clinically, if you're
don't they recruit psychopaths for these positions? Isn't that like part of the vetting process? You have to have that narcissistic personality disorder to even be considered for these positions?
Well, it naturally draws that type of personality, and most of the people that I came across, and I've had some intimate experiences with former co-workers who were hardcore narcissists. They were getting innocent people fired, bullying, all that sort of stuff. And so I studied a bit about that. And if you're that hardcore narcissist, you're sociopathic, right? Psychopath is like the next level, but you're already sociopathic when you're a narcissist to that level. And so most of diplomacy and politics is these sorts of people, number one. And then I was a master's student, and there was a bachelor's student in Geneva from Africa from the country of Gabon. And I was always talking about the New World Order and Freemasonry and all this stuff. And he told me a story about how once his uncle, something like his uncle or something, wanted to start running for, low-level office in Gabon. And he said he was unable to get anywhere unless he became a Freemason. So this was, told to me that, he had to first become a Freemason to then, run as mayor or whatever political. So they have these filters or ways of screening people out. And then you need a lot of money, especially in the West. Like there's no way you can run as a politician unless you're a successful self-made man.
Well, you have to get the endorsement of one of the two major parties because they are the funding apparatus behind it. Another club, not so secret of a society, but kind of behind the scenes, you know what I mean? And so you have to be a member of the Democrat or Republicans, or you're not going to have the funding to even compete.
Yeah, I mean it's fool's errand. Even if you had money, like Ross Perot couldn't succeed as a third party, was it? And so, or have private backers. There's criticism of Thomas Massey. He doesn't do AIPAC, but some people have been saying he gets some money from some strange organization that is.
I saw that he had Aardvark support a little bit, but like nothing like these other guys. But yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, but I do also have to argue from the other end that we do have to have nuance sometimes, where just because there's some connection that someone has to something does not immediately mean what you think it does.
He's telling a lot of truth, more than any of the rest of them. So I mean, you can't. And there's the whole argue about purity. There is no one, that you're going to agree with on 100% of everything. And so we have to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had a guess.
He did a lot of exposing. He exposed the fact on Tucker, the big show, right, that the large majority of Congress has AIPAC handlers. And then his wife dies suddenly. So there's an interesting coincidence there going on. Something may have happened.
Yeah, and this argument, when I get nasty comments from listeners or people who attack Massey, it's like it's only one man. I'm only one. I'm one person doing a podcast. Massey is a politician. Everyone's days are so busy. There's only so much he can cover, and he's attacking what he can attack. He just introduced the dual loyalty bill. Right? He fought the COVID 1984, as I like to call it. And so he's speaking against the wars. Didn't he recently say, the military industrial?
He introduced in the Fed bill. You know what I mean? So obviously it's on Congress. The bill's there. Vote yes in the Fed. But nobody else is introducing such a bill.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you ask of a single human being? And so we have to have nuance. You can't always say, there can be reasons for certain connections that are not always nefarious. Just one example, I had a guest, his name is Fadi Lama, on my podcast, and he's a good guy. He's got a good book. He's more in the multipolar BRICS crowd, but his analysis, he speaks against globalism. And one of my listeners found that Fadi Lama, my guest, consulted for like some EU organization. And he works in engineering. So my listener was like, "Oh, he's a globalist because he consulted for the EU." And I'm like, "Come on, I've shaken hands with Mikhail Gorbachev, who was a globalist. Does that make me a globalist?"
Yep, that makes you a globalist.
Yeah.
How did that thing on his head look in person? Was it scary, intimidating? Like, were you scared he has cancer on his head? You know what I'm saying?
This was 8 years ago now. So,
like, is it that pronounced in real life, that birthmark or whatever it is on his head?
Yeah, if I can vaguely remember, it was still pronounced, although he was, older and chubbier. So it kind of gets a little less sharp, the thing. But yeah, it was there. Yeah.
So shaking hands with Mikhail Gorbachev makes you a Soviet KGB agent?
Hey, don't joke about that. So last year, I had security state operations in alternative media, these strange anonymous X accounts. One of them was called Eyes of the Republic. He's actually got a website, and he wrote an entire article claiming, because I've interviewed some of the pro-Russia crowd, like the late Gonzalo Lira, the late Texas Bentley, Scott Ritter, McGregor, I'm a Russian agent without any proof. But he neglected to mention the other half of the people who were Pentagon hawks that I've interviewed. So it's like, what's up with that? And that was July of 2024. The next month in August last year, if you recall, they raided Scott Ritter's house and the Dmitry Shemes. And then in September, they dropped that whole Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Tenet, DOJ, Tenet Media, Russia psyop. And so, yeah, it's actually not a joke.
Oh my gosh, so ridiculous. Even YouTube, right? I'm going back through trying to get monetized on YouTube again, and I reached all the thresholds, subscribers, hours viewed, and then I go to sign up for my new Google AdSense account again, and they tell me, well, because of Ukraine-Russia war, you're glorifying the war. And I'm like, I'm not. Both sides are bad. They're killing people. I want the war over. Stop killing people. No side's better than the other. They're both bad. I consistently have said that from day one. Just every war. Stop killing each other. Both sides are bad for killing each other. Anyway, but yeah, like the same thing. They're like, well, you're taking Russia's side. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm saying Ukraine's bad or Russia's bad. It's all bad. A lot of people are dying. Stop it. But people can't seem to grasp that. They have to have your Republican Democrat, your Coke or Pepsi, your Russia, Ukraine. People have to pick a side. You can't be neutral like Switzerland and say, hey, guys, this is all bad. I don't want any part of any of it.
No, you got to put up the rainbow flag, the Ukraine flag, the Israel flag, or you can't be monetized. You can't do nothing,
I found the trick. I've learned the trick according to one show. And Barry's very happy there he says everything is happy in the comments, but no, a guy, what's the name? John Bronson. He has a show. His show's called We Read the Documents, I believe. And I heard him last week on a show, and he had his YouTube account banned, like so many of us have, right? And he said he did the back and forth, the strike thing like this, and submitting the appeals. And he said, finally, he just wrote them straight up. He said, I will fight to my dying day to expose Trump, right? And that's the appeal he sent them. And they reinstated his YouTube account like that. So that may be the key, is to tell him, I'm more anti-Trump than even you are, algorithm, or if I'm even talking to a real person, leftist over there at YouTube, I'm even more anti-Trump than you. And so that may be the key to getting full access to your YouTube.
Was it under Biden? Was that under Biden he did that? Or
no, I think this is under Trump, like very recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I heard him say that, and I was like, wow, I guess that's what I'll be saying next time too.
I on my YouTube, I've especially during the miracle years, it was multiple times where I'd get up to 2 strikes, and then I'd have to stop publishing anything on Pentagon Tube, as I like to call it, for 3 months until those strikes were repealed. And so I've been able to hang on, although it's strange because they still shadow ban you. So I believe that the entire internet, and it, even with Telegram, who they say, oh, it's kind of like, it's by Durov, it's this Russian platform. It's like, no, any app, they have some behind the scenes, room where they can just turn down the volume.
Sure.
On any account that you have anywhere on the internet, and your voice shouting in the wilderness. And, back in 2021.
But you remember the good old days when you could go viral, right? Because I used to go viral on YouTube. I had a video. I remember my biggest video on YouTube ever on my original account. It was a report about the TSA beating up a disabled girl in Tennessee, and that got like over 3 million views on YouTube for me, right? And I was like, yeah, you could. That was back in the day when you could organically still go viral, but never again. They turn the screws down unless you're part of whatever clique. You're not going viral organically. It's just not happening.
Right. With unless you're a part of any of these managed cliques, whether left or right, we see they call it the mainstream alternative media, the new narrative network. And yeah, I had been the first to interview Dr. Francis Boyle, who just passed on the 2020 event. In
We
January.
just celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Biological Weapons Convention of the UN yesterday. For whatever that's worth, yeah.
yeah. He wrote that law for 1989, and that interview went 300,000 plus, and then they deleted it. But this just kind of back to the censorship angle, where in 2020, a year later, the Associated Press did a hit piece on him mentioning my podcast that same week, and that article was co-written by Atlantic Council, right, NATO's think tank. And that same week, I got taken off of terminated on Patreon. And then the following year, in April of 2022, if you recall, the DHS rolls out the Disinformation Governance Board with the Nina Yankowicz lady. That exact moment, Consortium News, Minpress News, and myself were banned from PayPal. And it's funny, later on when I went to Nina Yankowicz's Twitter account, I'd never visited her or anything. The first time I ever just visited Nina Yankowicz's profile, I was blocked. I was preempted.
You were cyberbullying her, that's why.
But it's
they made it sound. Google made it sound like I'm writing hate mail to the World Health Organization. I'm not who am I? Some guy over here in California doing reports about what I'm seeing about the medical intervention, and you guys are saying that I'm cyberbullying the World Health Organization, like.
They're trying to democide us, which is fine, but we can't. It's within
you
our
can't even
rights.
say I think it's wrong. I disagree with your public health policy. You're not even allowed to say that.
I mean, it's our right to mock those in power. So.
Apparently not anymore. Okay, let's take our live commercial break. Plug your stuff. Where can people find your broadcast? Your anything you're selling? Tires, baby food.
Tacos.
Anything?
No,
Tacos.
Fentanyl. No, just kidding. Geopoliticsandempire.com is the website. So I got my podcast, and then the Substack, geopoliticsandempire.substack.com, where I do a weekly analysis with paid subscribers, 4 paid subscribers, and then we do every week or two a group Zoom call with supporters only off the record, where we just sort of shoot the breeze. And then I've got a version in Spanish as well. I speak Spanish as a naturalized Mexican, and I conduct interviews in Spanish with. I have English subtitles for those as well, and so yeah, that's what's going on there. It's been at least a decade that's been going on, and it's only my first full year trying to do this full time. So that came out of me. It was a hobby. I was moonlighting as a podcaster while I was teaching, and so yeah.
Wow. Okay. And everybody just go to geopoliticsandempire.com. And then right there at the top are all your social media. Where to find you over there on the interwebs, and the censorship web essentially now is what it's become. Right there.
Yeah. And if they go to the bottom of the page, there's a fuller list of icons all the way to the bottom. And
right
as you mentioned, I'm on. You got to be on Rumble, Odysee, Bitchute, Brighteon, Substack, X, Gab, whatever you name it,
Every you got to be on all of them and hope that one of them's not censoring you. I think I'm censored on everything on the internet. I was delisted by Google, for God's sake. You know what I mean? I'm surprised they still let me have a URL for Weaponized News. That's like the only next thing they could do is ban my URL. They banned me from Google search results. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm also blacklisted on Google search engine, but I think they're trying to get there. So they've been trying to be able to clamp down. So they got the social media platforms covered.
Wait, let me plug my stuff real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Go to weaponizednews.com, get yourself some stickers over there. And then the campaign continues on the YouTube. Give us a subscription on YouTube for whatever that's worth as we try to reach 1,000 subscribers and break that threshold. And then we will satisfy all of their conditions until we get another strike, which we won't, because we're following their community guidelines like good global citizens do. We hate Trump over here, YouTube. So, I mean, come on, man. Give me a break. Okay. What were you saying about the whole censorship program now?
Well, I mean, what do you?
If we just hate Trump, we'll be good, man.
What do you? What do you make of them all of a sudden opening up? Facebook and YouTube and other stuff?
Zuckerberg's a tech libertarian bro now. He's reformed. He had that video surfing, drinking a beer. Hey, he's a bro now. So, I mean, it's all forgiven. I only built up my Facebook account with all my high school, college, business contacts, people I know in real life. I had like 2,000 something, and they just deleted it. Who cares? I forgive him because now he was surfing, drinking a beer. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I feel it's
Facebook was different than the rest of the interweb because on there, the old Facebook, it was people I knew in real life. You know what I mean? And I came up through the growth of Facebook with it. And it used to be, you meet somebody, they're like, what's your Facebook? And you give it to them, and then you make a contact like that in real life where you actually know these people, as compared to like X. I don't know any of these people in real life. You know what I mean? And so to me, that was the difference. It was more personal, even though I knew the whole time. The only reason you're getting on here is to give the government your data and to build a profile on you. But what was it? LifeLog went offline the same day Facebook went online, coincidentally enough. But anyway, I lost all those contacts that I had made throughout like 15 years or whatever it was of building of creating my network on Facebook, just like that.
I think about this often, where they've changed the culture. And so, as you mentioned, the past 10, 20 years, society, it's been integrated with, I prefer the analog world before all of this, but it's like there's no
way.
way.
I remember I went to high school with no cell phones. I'm like the last generation. There was no cell phones, no internet. There was like internet. There was one computer in the back of the library, and nobody cared about what it was because that was for nerds. And who cares about the internet? We got to go beat up some kids over here. You know what I mean? Like this.
I prefer to those times because now I tried. So where was it going? With this, that you can't, so it's been part of society, so it's been normalized, and all these people that you mentioned, it's become part of everyone's lives growing up in the 2000s, right? 2010s. And WhatsApp, for example, there was the privacy thing with WhatsApp some years ago. I had uninstalled WhatsApp. WhatsApp is big in Latin America, like in Mexico, and in some other countries it's not as popular. And basically what happened here in Mexico, if you're not on WhatsApp, it's like you don't exist. People just don't contact you anymore. It's just like, I had to reinstall it again just because it's become, I gave up because it's nearly impossible now to be able to network. As you were talking about earlier, contacts, business contacts. There are important guests that I reach, for my podcast through WhatsApp. And it's like, I cannot not use it at this point. It's become so fundamental. And yeah, it should be a public square, but they can kick anyone off the public square. So
we're going into that scientific dictatorship technocracy. Let's hear from one of the founders, one of the big players in it. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt warns it may take modest death event like Chernobyl for the public to take AI risks seriously. So he's caring about the public here now. Well, let's watch this short clip.
In the industry, there is a concern that people don't understand this. And we're going to have some reasonably, I don't know how to say this in a not cruel way, a modest death event, something the equivalent of Chernobyl, which will scare everybody incredibly to understand this stuff. We see the possibility. We're doing everything we can to hold this stuff and prevent it. But does it take a tragedy? Hiroshima and Nagasaki were a tragedy. That's what, and Henry did, as you know, right. The early, and this is a RAND project, where they invented essentially mutual assured destruction, right, in the 1950s.
Nuclear. Yeah.
So we're going to have to go through some similar process, and I'd rather do it before the major event with terrible harm than after it occurs.
So are they telling us something big is still coming here now to get the public in line?
Cyber Polygon, right?
Cyber Polygon, like World Economic Forum said.
That's
But we defeated them. We defeated them.
well, you know, I think that's the big thing. You know, that's why I focus most of my I'm just naturally interested in the main topics being globalism, world government, because I feel like, again, that explains everything else, because you see them in their own white papers. They talk about the nuclear war threat, the climate change threat, the health threats, the AI threats. So based on all these threats, we need to create global governance, right? We need to construct global governance, and the algorithm ghetto, as my past guest Edwin Black calls it, and you know, in March of 2020, I said the 2020 miracle event was principally to bring in oligocracy. Like, a lot of people focused on the miracle stuff and this and that. I'm like, it was really the digital aspect, the QR codes, the digital passports. And so, as you're saying now, I think the next shoe to drop is going to be something cyber digital, so then they can use. Is that a real cat or is it a cyborg cat?
No, that's a real cat. Not working for the CIA, but we're supposed to get like 1 million views if you have a cat on your video. A cat decided to join. Ruby the cat. Okay, sorry. Continue. The biggest star of the show right there.
No, so I think the next event is going to have to be something related to that, so they can accelerate the deployment of in countries around the world of, you know, digital IDs and passports.
They wanted it bad, the passport.
Tony Blair is just going around. He's like, give me digital ID now.
Wow. My cat's
We got some action here. Action
cat
packed.
on the set. Ruby. Get out of here, cat. Come on.
The cat has become weaponized.
The cat is weaponized. Okay, let's continue. Sorry about the cat. That should give me 1 million clicks right there. Okay, China real quick. This is via Simon, former co-host of Weaponized News. He posted this on his X account, and he says China's budget for 2025. And I found it interesting here that they put in their budget resource stockpiling right here. We don't have anything like that in our budget that I've seen. They could care less if
we're supposed to die.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They got the bunkers, the continuity of government program with all of their stockpile for the apocalypse. Us, yeah, go in the ditch and die here. But any thoughts, comments on the Chinese budget here? Anything that sticks out to you? And
I'm getting a feedback.
Oh,
here's
a cat. Yeah. Oh, I got to mute it. Sorry. There we go.
All right.
When I do share screen.
I mean, it made me think about the EU's recent announcement that all citizens of the EU should get 3 days at least of stockpiling stuff. And yeah, I think they're preparing for a coming conflict that will, I think, at least by next year, 2026, 2027, I think that's as we get closer to whatever event, including war. What else is interesting? There, I don't know. Nothing.
Pretty standard, right?
Science and tech. I mean, part of my focus, I posted late last night my analysis, and a lot of the trends that I noticed were revolving around China. Foreign Affairs just published a piece 2 days ago saying China has already remade the international system, and the money shot from that article says, where is it? It says
we've been reporting on over a year about the new world order from the Russian and Chinese perspective, and they call it, as the Biden administration did too, they all said we're in a new era.
Yeah, and the CFR says the U.S. is already living in China's world, and then some of the other articles discuss, for example, China. 3 of China's cities are now in the world's top 10 global.
And yeah, and there's a trend too. I saw where quote influencers on the interwebs are going to China and doing videos and saying, "Look how great China is, high tech, advanced, and basically your garbage, America."
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of that stuff. I think they do have that same sort of digital control system it exists everywhere, but beyond setting that aside, I think life is, good. It's still cheap. I just saw a video the other day. It's a lower cost of living in China, and a lot of advanced tech and development and industry and infrastructure, trains and all that. And some of the other articles I saw included stuff like 80 global executives just finished a day or two ago, gathered in Beijing with Xi Jinping, and so it just kind of tells you which way the wind is blowing. Really, I'm trying to remember what else was related to China that was interesting, but yeah. Oh, and Robert Bryce, I think is his name. He's a great energy commentator. He was just mentioning. I've interviewed him on my old TNT radio program, and he said, I'm trying to pull it up here. He did a great short clip. He said that the coal-fired capacity that China is building out right now will exceed. So once China finishes, China's coal-fired capacity alone will exceed all of the generation capacity of the U.S. So if you put together U.S.'s nuclear, solar, coal, gas, whatever,
windmill,
and China's coal-fired capacity alone will exceed the U.S.'s, and then India is doing the same thing. And so, it seems U.S. is being, I don't know. I mean, in other regards, they both have advantages. Like in some of the tech spaces, U.S. is ahead, and it's still a force to be reckoned with, United States. But China is, they're getting really neck and neck now.
Are they? Quickly though, in the comments, Barry, that was what you did see a different cat named Leia. This is a different cat. I have two cats, okay? And so the cat you saw last week was Leia, a kitten still, that actually I had to rescue from a tree in my backyard that just showed up out of the blue, probably working for the CIA. And then this cat, another one that showed up out of the blue, is named Ruby. So two different cats. Don't be mistaken. Ruby and Leia. Excuse me. Sorry. Side note there. Okay. So what do you think of this idea? As we see, the real wars killing people, but at the top of all these governments, they're all in secret societies meeting behind the scenes, as in Russia, China, America, and so on, and literally laughing in the poor people's face, because that's who goes and fights and dies in their wars. And literally, they are all working behind the scenes together. What do you think of this idea? As on the front, we're fighting for global control of the powers that be in the world, but actually, they're all laughing at the serfs behind the scenes. That is the ruling class of all of these different countries.
That's exactly my view. Again, I'm coming from the biblical worldview, and when Jesus was in the desert 40 days, Satan comes up to him and says, just worship me and I'll give you all of the world's kingdoms. So coming from the biblical worldview, it implies that the evil forces Satan manipulates, controls the entire world's political system. Number one. Number two, if you want to leave aside the Bible and look at it from secular perspective, there's just plenty of evidence to confirm that. I listen to a lot of folks from all walks, left, right, commies, New Agers, Christians, whatever. And some of them are experts in their respective wherever they're coming from. Mark Passio, I don't know if you heard of him, but former Satanist. I like his work, even though I think he remains sort of a Gnostic. But he's given fantastic.
He's very angry though. As of late, like the last couple of years, he's been very angry, and I see his frustration come through because he wants more. He wants more action, and I realize that he put in a lot of work trying to expose all this stuff and get people to wake up, and it's just not happening. So he's coming across as very angry lately, which I understand. But yeah, he's put out a lot of great work over the years for sure.
Yeah, it's amusing sometimes, but he calls it the occultocracy, which is my favorite term for
this. I've said it for a long time. They're dark occultists or Satanists, whatever you want to say, wearing the suits. And he explains it's the mindset, not the guys dressed in black robes doing the rituals. There's that too, but the real guys in power are of the mindset of Satanism.
Yeah, and he calls it technocratic occultocracy. And there's been a few guests that I've interviewed. Emmanuel Pastrick when I asked him about the 2020 miracle years. Francis Boyle, in my last interview with him in 2022, he talked about basically how it's all, we're fighting. World War III is a scientific dictatorship where it's a recent guest I had on, Seven Seas, I think, Justino Carneiro. I haven't published it yet. He's a Portuguese Orthodox Christian. And it's basically there's no more horizontal. It's all vertical. So it's not nations versus. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but the main is the global elites versus us plebes collectively. And
hasn't it always been that way? The oligarchy, for lack of a better term, versus all the serfs. And now it's just for those that care to pay attention and look at the way things actually are, instead of having these political heroes. It's just self-evident now at this point to anybody that cares to look. With the internet, we have the ability to go find this information. Like before the internet, you had to go dig through, like say Eustace Mullins, right? Like to go back old school, he literally had to go to the Library of Congress, dig through all these different publications and books and whatnot to come up with his books, like connecting all this stuff. Now it's at your fingertips on the internet, as one example of a researcher that tied a lot of this stuff together pre-internet days.
I wouldn't disagree. So yeah, I would say that, Satan's been around running the show since the Garden of Eden, but I would just say it's a spectrum. So like that symbol that I used of the vertical and horizontal, where it's nations versus nations and the global elite versus us. Maybe back then, as you said, it was tilted a little more towards horizontal conflicts, right? Because there was less technology and you'd have empires versus empires, right? So you'd have these different cartels fighting each other. And so now, because of globalization and because we're reaching world government because of technology, which has shrunk the world, right, as they say, and has for them power has centralized, and they've gained monopoly essentially on the planet. So now it's more, where it used to be more horizontal conflict, now it's more fully the more vertical. So I wouldn't disagree with you. I just feel like it's more now. It's less horizontal, and it's basically, the Kremlin, the Beijing, all the centers of
I believe
power.
they will still fight amongst themselves for the ultimate power and control, for the ring, right? For the ultimate power. But while they're doing that, you got to take care of the serfs below you, because the competition, they hate competition.
No, that's exactly right. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I liken it to the Mexican cartels. So you got a whole bunch of cartels in Mexico. Their ideology, they all agree on ideology: kidnap, rape, murder, dismember, worship Satan, Santa Muerte. This cult here in Mexico. And it's but at times one will want to take the other one out, or have them a more monopoly on power. So that's kind of how I view the Western globalist bloc and the Eastern globalist bloc, where you've seen China and their own foreign minister in the past weeks. I've been mentioning this. He's like, we want a fair and equitable world government. So it's kind of like, we're down with globalism. Hey, guys, we're doing SDGs. We're doing Agenda 2030. We're implementing technocracy. But I thought the deal was, we're at the table with Washington, London, and Brussels, and we're supposed to cut the pie equally. I don't want, Brussels to have a bigger cake slice than I do. And then the Western guys, they're like, no, you guys, Kremlin and Beijing, you're supposed to be like down here. And so I think that's where you get that friction point. So
a multipolar world is where we're heading here. Okay, let me play some quick clips. Let me ask you this question. Why does the NATO secretary I want to say Root, but I hear people say Rooter. Do you know how to pronounce this guy's name?
No, I call him Bilderberger because he's a Bilderberger. So
he was. Let's hear him now. Now he's claiming, he said, we never said Ukraine would become a member of NATO, as that is becoming more evident now. Let's watch a short clip of him. Sorry, Zelensky, you're not getting in NATO.
I always also point out that we never said that Ukraine would become a member of the alliance as part of a peace deal. And what the Americans have said, that they have taken the view that as part of a peace deal, Ukraine should not become member of NATO, being subject to a peace deal. But that's of course separate from what will happen in the future. It is very intense, and there are days that I'm twice on the phone with Zelensky, and many weeks go by where at least we speak once or twice. So
are we going to see a full peace treaty between Ukraine and Russia? Because this week they said no more Black Sea attacks and no more attacks on energy infrastructure as part of and they haven't said phases yet. I'm surprised, but part of the first phase of the winding down potentially.
It's hard to say. I mean, some people talk about this remaining a frozen conflict. Others that the U.S. is, they just had the Trump's envoy in Russia, and this has been talked about for years, that the U.S. will try to become friends again with Russia, and to use them against China. But I mean, how many times can the Russians be fooled? I don't really see that. But again, we're going back to what we said earlier, that they're all.
But they're not communists anymore. So that was the whole thing in America, to get everybody pissed off at Russia. The USSR, Soviet Union, they're the Russians. They're the commies. They're taking over the world. You know what I mean? They don't have that boogeyman. Now it's just Putin is the most evil man in the world. YouTube, of course he is. But I mean, that's really all they have is that Putin. And yeah, he does. His political opposition gets imprisoned and killed. It happens every friggin' where. He's not the only one a leader that this type of thing, political environment is in underneath their rule. But it's just not the same as the Soviet Union, USSR boogeyman to me.
No, and for me, the larger point of Ukraine is I view, of course, it's for the defense companies, money laundering. I also think one of the purposes.
Well, they told us, Newland and many others said, don't even worry about all that money. It's coming back here to America, right? We're gonna take that money back here and make the bombs here to kill those damn Russians. So you don't worry about all that money going over there.
I think Lindsey Graham actually said.
Yeah, that. Graham, Newland, a bunch of them has said it. So
right.
I was like, okay, well, if we get to kill Russians and all the money's coming back here, I guess hell, tax me more.
Yeah, and I think the two reasons. One is, well, again, they want world government, and in their own writings, they say they need war to frighten the global populations into finally relinquishing sovereignty and accepting world, supranational federation. Number one. Number two, I think they keep talking about. You've got the European Union, which is the model for this world government. Project Syndicate just published an article last.
That's a region of it, right? Already in place.
Right, but it's the model in the sense that it's the prototype. It's their version. The EU was the first, and then they just copy and paste that to the rest of the regions, 10 or so regions, and then that's the world government. And so it's the model for the regions, but also for the global system. And Project Syndicate just published an article last week saying EU is the blueprint. You've heard Lopez Obrador, the former Mexican president, time after time, he literally said, we need to copy the EU and make North American Union. Bukele in El Salvador, in 2 years ago in an interview, he literally said, we need to copy the EU and make a Central American Union. You've had Rafael
Vicente Fox before that was saying it.
Right, and then in the South Americans, Rafael Correa of Ecuador, he gave an interview 2 years ago. He said, literally, we got to copy the EU and make a South American Union. And so my point is, in the EU, you've got one political system, one economic system, ECB and the Euro, and you need one military. And now you're hearing them talk about U.S. moving away from NATO. They even published last week U.S. leaving NATO command. And so I feel like Ukraine has been the war has been the pretext to get the EU to create an EU army once and for all. And so I think that's what all this talk you hear about U.S. dropping NATO command. They've held it since the beginning. That would be a huge deal. It's kind of like taking the training wheels off. It's like U.S. is kind of like, okay, we're taking the training wheels off. You guys go and create your EU army now. And they need a pretext for it, which is this whole Ukraine conflict. That, and I think maybe eventually they've said that they want to march on Moscow. And you've got the financial system, and a great pretext would be, again, war. And then the wars can be used to build the third version of world government. So,
Let's hear from the most evil man in the world, Putin, here, where he's talking about, there's two clips. I'll just play one in the interest of time. A short clip here. Putin says Russia has never threatened anyone in the Arctic, as that space is heating up in the Arctic, as we've been reporting here now. And he's also Putin warns not to dismiss Trump's Greenland annexation plans as a mere fantasy, claiming the United States had similar ambitions back in 1860s, but Congress blocked it at that time. So Putin has his eye on all these things moving back and forth. But short clip from the most evil man in the world.
Stress: Russia has never threatened anybody in the Arctic, but we are watching very closely the recent developments. We develop our response capabilities by enhancing our combat capabilities and upgrading military infrastructure. We will not allow any encroachment on the sovereignty of our country. We will safely protect our national interests. By maintaining peace and stability in the polar region, we will ensure long-term socioeconomic development of the region and improvement of the standards of living of people living here, and preservation of the unique environment. The stronger our positions, the greater the results, the more opportunities we'll have to launch global international projects in the Arctic with the participation of friendly countries, friendly states, and possibly Western countries, if, of course, they demonstrate interest to joint work. I'm confident that the time for such projects will definitely come.
We found a new space to fight over, the Arctic now.
Yeah, I just shared the news 3 hours ago, which the summary says the Arctic mirrors the global power struggle between the East and the West. This Arctic divide will escalate. The Arctic is divided between a NATO-led Western Arctic and a Russian Arctic with close ties to BRICS countries, particularly China and India. And so I think, they talk about resources, although there's an interesting podcast called the Red Line Podcast, and they did a episode on the Arctic, and there's a lot of hype as well, because you look at the insurance companies, they're not insuring, and it's very costly still. There's no infrastructure, it's high insurance, so it's still not financially very viable for extracting resources. And I don't think we believe in climate change, do we? So that's not going to change anytime soon. But also space-based stuff, I think it could be also important for that, staging for, because they're building out the main sort of Starlink companies are obviously SpaceX, Starlink. EU has its own sort of Starlink version called EU Satintel or something, and China also. And so space, I think, plays an important role in all this as well.
Let's go to old Barry in Canada, our unpaid co-producer on the interwebs, managing the chats over there. Thank you, Barry. Here's your guy, Mark Carney. He's essentially he's declaring a trade war with the United States. Canadian Prime Minister says the era of close ties with the U.S. is over. What? Here we go.
We will need to ensure that Canada can succeed in a drastically different world. The old relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over.
Is it really over?
I view that all as lucha libre, World Wrestling Federation, World Wrestling Entertainment stuff, because that's how I view it. Because watch, like in a year or two or three, it's going to be like furthering North American integration. That's my off the cuff view. And something very important related to this is, I was going to mention this story. It says Trump tariffs on Canada lumber risk pinching toilet paper supply.
I saw that. Yeah.
So no more toilet paper. Run to your Costco.
But remember, the strange thing is that when they declared a medical emergency, that everyone hoarded toilet paper for some strange reason. They weren't worried about food, water, fuel. They were worried about toilet paper. I saw it here locally here where I shop. I went shopping like I regularly do at the grocery store, and literally the whole toilet paper section was gone. People hoarded it. Did you notice that in your area?
It's really weird. Like the thing that I noticed, well, I during COVID, I just didn't go shopping because even in Mexico, you had to wear masks.
Yeah.
I had to go to the small corner stores that didn't care about it. It would let me buy stuff without masks. So I was relegated to that. Or I bought stuff online. And they, it's funny how during COVID, all of a sudden, it was the first time, even here in Mexico, they rolled out these you could buy groceries online and have them delivered. That didn't exist before the miracle years. But just your point on toilet paper, I don't have a Costco membership. I hate going. Costco's 70% owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. But maybe once a year I'll borrow someone's membership and I'll go in and I literally buy non-perishable goods like toilet paper for 2 years supply, and so I'll stock up on it. But it's funny, when I go to Costco here in Mexico, often they won't have toilet paper. It's just like people are just obsessed with buying toilet paper. I don't understand. Like I'll go in the one time in the entire year I go into Costco, it's like the day there's like no toilet paper. Like the last time I went, there was no toilet paper. It was all empty.
You can't even be a good prepper through Costco there.
It's just like, but people are obsessed with toilet paper. I don't know what they're doing. Like, is all this food that they're buying, fast food?
They're pooping a lot or something. Man. Okay, on to what else do we got? This quick clip I thought was funny. They're in London. Tesla charging stations are plastered with Elon Nazi salute posters. Let's watch this short clip. They're not going to let this die about the old Elon. And so there's a peaceful, nonviolent way. They're not vandalizing the Tesla charging stations and still doing their protest and being relatively effective, I think, there. So maybe a hint to the U.S. Tesla attackers here.
I mean, that's the type of, even though I think it's dumb what they're doing, this type of nonviolent protest, which I can get down with. I have a solution, though, for all the Nazi Tesla folks. Buy Volkswagens, right? Buy Volkswagen,
There you go. There you go. Show your disgust for Tesla and buy a Volkswagen. Okay. Sadly, are we allowed to? I think we are, probably not on the censorship webs, but I thought it was like the most American thing you could do is to be against the King of England. But I guess you shouldn't obviously wish ill will on anybody. But King Charles III was hospitalized briefly for cancer treatment side effects. It's being reported. But don't you worry. He's been cleared, and he's now back out on the streets doing his deeds for the people of England there. But that was reported today. Sadly, he made it out of the hospital. So briefly, as we've seen, the Pope too has just recovered from a hospital stint. King Charles' Ramadan message. See, he was well enough to give a Ramadan message to the Muslims there of England, which some claim England may become a Islamic country sooner than later. I don't know about that, but let's hear from the King of England here with his Ramadan message.
As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan. Peace be upon you all. Ramadan Mubarak. As Muslims across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth observe the beginning of the holiest of months in the Islamic calendar, the month of Ramadan, I just wanted to convey my heartfelt best wishes to you all, and to tell you just how much my wife and I are thinking of you at this special time of year. This would have been a joyous time. Mosques would be filling with life. Muslim families would be coming together to share food and prayers. And many of them would be inviting their neighbors and friends of all faiths and none to join them. My wife and I can only offer you all our kindest and most special wishes and stress just how greatly the contribution of Muslims to the life of the United Kingdom is appreciated and valued, embodying the Ramadan spirit of charity and selflessness. As the Quran says, God does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. We hope that you have a blessed and fulfilling Ramadan.
I saw a post saying that there's been times in the past in history where an English king talking like this would be beheaded. And obviously I'm not advocating for such things, but I do believe that is true.
Well, I think the play now is, again, world government and world religion. So this is part of promoting this.
What do you do with the Muslims, though? They're not going to go along with this Gaia worship or whatever. How do you coexist, mismash all the world's religion into one world government religion? Is it just worship the state?
I view it more like, if you look at this Baha'i type stuff, universalism, and this ecumenicalism that that you've got in UAE, that Abrahamic center where they got the
they're trying to merge them there, yeah,
right, the Christian, Jewish, and Islamic, and they're trying to sort of excise the exclusive aspects of some of these faiths because
the parts that contradict each other.
or like from the biblical worldview, it's an exclusive. You can't says Jesus is the only way to God, right? The Bible,
the truth, yeah.
And so you can't have Christianity. Christianity says all other faiths are wrong. Where now you've got a lot of this theosophy stuff that says no, it's all, we're all one, and many roads lead to Rome, and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's kind of what's at play here, where they're trying to bring together all of the faiths.
Because we need one world religion for one world government.
You do. I mean, as you do. And then part of it is the what you mentioned, the state. So there's you can check out this guy. He's a German theologian, Dr. Martin Erdmann. He was supposed to come on my podcast for the first time. I followed him for a long time. He had a heart attack 3 days before. He's still alive, but he's written books called The Metamorphosis of Liberalism. So he argues that democracy today, he calls it romantic democracy. It's a false religion. It's a mystical, occult, civil religion, and voting is part of that process. Is why I don't vote anymore. But you think about it, the way the EU is always talking about democracy, it's like it's a god.
Here in America, they just drone on about democracy, and it just makes me want to throw up.
But even the everyday people, they're obsessed with their political party, like it's a religion. And then Trump is has godhood status, and they worship these politicians. So basically, this liberalism that we have today, which is intertwined with statism, is sort of like a religion. So
worshiping the state like communists. That's why I made a post, and it made the MAGA mad. I was like, congratulations, MAGA. Now you're all communists because you worship the government. There you go. The state is God to communists, to atheists.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other news that you're talking about now, where the FBI is being weaponized by MAGA now. We were supposed to dismantle the FBI. What's going on? And now they're kicking out foreigners. A French scientist was kicked out.
Yeah, I saw that report
because he criticized Trump. And I'm like, but that was not, that was supposed to be antithetical, to the conservative views of the past few years. But now, again, it doesn't matter left or right. It's a uniparty, just an example to talk about the aardvarks you saw. Maybe Netanyahu came out yesterday with a clip where he was talking about how a democracy and the Israeli deep state. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Democracy doesn't exist, and you are the deep state, Netanyahu. So
He's fighting it there for the people of Aardvark land. I'm telling you, he's a good guy. Anybody, even the Aardvarks protest him. They're anti-Semitic. Yeah, Tufts student taken by masked ICE officers while walking to meet friends, and she was a I can't pronounce her name. Rumisa Orsturk, and she was well, she's basically Hamas. She's an anti-war protester, and they also conflate. If you're against the war, you're somehow pro-Hamas. No, I don't support any of them because they're killing each other. Like the quote mainstream in America can't seem to grasp that concept of if you're against the war, then somehow you're pro-Hamas, and it's like, no, you don't get it. But yeah, she was here scooped up off the streets. A Fulbright scholar was walking across campus of Tufts University there in Somerville, Massachusetts. She's a PhD student, and she was hemmed up there by ICE. I think we have video of it. Let's play a short clip of that. So if these guys walk up to you wearing all black, they may be looking to deport you. Be aware. Got her. Got that terrorist. Yep. And see, MAGA cheers this on now. MAGA cheers this type of behavior on.
I'm worried for myself now. Next time I travel to the U.S., like I'm thinking maybe I should put a Ukraine and Israeli flag on my back and jacket, just so nothing happens. I mean, I put up a few clips in my paid analysis last night. You had an Israeli ambassador saying, "I'm going to play," what did he say? Golf in Gaza. And it's just kind of.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Okay, continuing here. Let's hear what old little Marco, Secretary of State, had to say about this incident when the asked at a press conference here. Isn't it funny remember how much Trump made fun of him in 2016 running for president? Call him little Marco, all these shaming him, all these. Oh yeah, but it's cool. We're cool now. It's to show you how fake it all is, right? If Marco was a real man, he would have said, "I challenge you to a duel for your insults, and I'll never work for you." You know what I'm saying? But it just shows how fake it all is. Here's little Marco asked about this incident.
A Turkish student in Boston was detained and handcuffed on the street by plainclothes agents. A year ago, she wrote an opinion piece about the Gaza war. Could you help us understand what the specific action she took led to her visa being revoked?
Yeah,
and what was your State Department's role in that process?
We revoked her visa. It's an F1 visa, I believe. We revoked it, and here's why. And I'll say it again. I said it everywhere. Let me be abundantly clear, okay? If you go apply for a visa right now, anywhere in the world, let me just send this message out. If you apply for a visa to enter the United States and be a student, and you tell us that the reason why you're coming to the United States is not just because you want to write op-eds, but because you want to participate in movements that are involved in doing things like vandalizing universities, harassing students, taking over buildings, creating a ruckus, we're not going to give you a visa. If you lie to us and get a visa and then enter the United States and with that visa participate in that sort of activity, we're going to take away your visa.
You hear that, Adam Clark? Ruckus? You're on the list, buddy.
Where do we send Ruckus? What planet is he from? I forgot. Which.
If you're creating a ruckus in this country, you're gone, man. You're gone. ICE is going to deport your butt.
But again, it goes back to what I'm saying earlier. This is all about normalizing this type of thing for the border industrial complex. And do we send Rubio back to Cuba or what? I mean, I don't think, because it's thought crime, it's policing thought. Like if this lady did something like physically violent or illegal, I can get it. But if she's like just going to school and she just writes an article, I mean,
That's all I've seen so far. And then she's alleged part of the protest we saw last year. They're protesting the war. All Hamas terror supporters allegedly here now.
Although there are things, he wasn't incorrect, Rubio, when he says other countries apply this sort of thing. For example,
that is true. Other countries are a lot more stringent. They'll kill you in other countries.
Well, like when I first came to Mexico, you have protests in Mexico and all that sort of stuff. But I was told, I looked up the law that said if I'm not a citizen living in Mexico, I'm a foreigner, whatever visa, I'm not allowed to participate in any political protest in Mexico. I could be deported. And so now as a citizen, I can. But I've lived in Kazakhstan where it's authoritarian light. I've been to Russia. I almost didn't get a visa for Russia just because they're so strict. And in Kazakhstan, they shut out the internet. My email is not available and it's banned. So my private email service is banned completely in Kazakhstan. And then just to access my email in Kazakhstan, I had to purchase a VPN. That VPN got blocked. I had to purchase a second VPN. The second VPN got blocked. I had to purchase a third VPN just to access my private email in Kazakhstan. And so, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. So he was incorrect in that sense, Rubio, but I think this is very.
Well, we're supposed to be America. We're supposed to be different. That's what they tell us.
We're supposed to show the rest of the world about how much, freedom.
About liberty and freedom and all that stuff. No, maybe not. Okay. This still had me shocked. I don't even know why. I reported on it a lot. I didn't even realize over 100 strikes on the Houthis now have been conducted. Here's the press conference from yesterday where she says it. Over 100 with no congressional approval, nothing, and nobody even cares. We're bombing the hell out of Yemen here under Genocide Joe and now Genocide Donald.
But there have been more than 100 strikes conducted against Houthi targets, and they have hit key Houthi leaders, air defense systems, command and control nodes, headquarters, weapons manufacturing and storage facilities. And these operations will continue until the freedom of navigation in our seas is restored and U.S. shipping can safely transmit without the fear of attack. And again, we believe that this has been a very successful operation thus.
Over 100. I didn't realize. I was tracking it. I thought we were at like 50 maybe but she's at over 100.
I'm waiting. It's all about Iran. I had
That's what they keep saying, that we're not attacking Yemen, we're attacking Iran. Well, the people in Yemen think you're attacking them.
No, I think eventually it's going to happen. They're going to go for it.
But they've been telling us ever since 9/11, Iran is going to have a nuke in 2 weeks, and we have to go ahead and take care of them before that happens. You know what I mean? It's the same. I keep seeing it recycled in the news cycle every 6 months. Iran's 2 weeks away from a nuke. We got to do something.
Yeah, but I think eventually they're going to go for it. It
feels like that's what all this is building up to.
They have to, because it's part of their plan. And then what's interesting, you've seen the Shah, right? Reza Pahlavi, his son, he's been going to the national conservative conferences speaking, and he's tweeting he wants to be put in. So after the regime change, he wants to be put in to power. And you've got the Abraham Accords, and he's promoting something called the Cyrus Accords, which includes peace between Israel, the Gulf countries, and Iran, except, that the current Iran is not down with the Abraham Accords. So they need to regime change Iran to make this Middle Eastern peace and Middle Eastern Union. So I've been pointing out, you can go back to articles a decade ago from Foreign Affairs and CFR where they talk about creating a Middle Eastern Union like the EU and the Middle Eastern NATO structure. And one of the ways to do that, again, is the pretext is war with Iran. Just like I've been saying, the Ukraine stuff is pretext for furthering European integration. So I think they're going to go after Iran.
They've been floating that for, like I say, since 9/11.
Wesley Clark, they ticked off most. Syria, Libya is gone. They've bombed Somalia. So
Sudan is in the middle of a civil war right now. So they're ticking their boxes off for sure. What do we make of, we got a couple more stories. We're at the end here, just covering the aardvark land, genocide, ethnic cleansing program, real estate redevelopment project going on over there. Big aardvark supporter. Elise Stefanik has been her nomination for UN ambassador to the United States for the United States has been pulled today by Trump. What do we think of this? I mean, she checked all the boxes, so I don't really understand why something happened. We may never know.
I'm not familiar.
You're not familiar with her?
No.
Well, she's out there, big Aardvark first supporter all over the place. But anyway.
Maybe they found someone better. You know?
Yeah. I don't know how you could be more Aardvarker than her, but so we see this this coming out of Palestinian Coalition statement on defending the right to protest for Palestine. And they're talking about the government has indicated its intention to introduce an amendment to the crime and policing bill to further restrict the right to protest. They're talking about here in America. So will you be arrested soon for protesting the war and be claimed to be a terrorist? That's the way all of this stuff is trending right now.
Free, you know, it's that spin again from the MAGA crowd. Like, it makes me think of these, you know, the 15-minute cities are being renamed freedom cities, and Trump is like, it's the same thing here. You know, it's they're just it's just been a long time coming. You know, for decades we've been moving towards down the road of totalitarianism, and it's the left, right, you know, tiptoe, and it's just more of the same. You know, it's.
I wish they would see it, because you hated it when the other side was doing it and you screamed foul, which was right. But when your side does it, it's all good. No, it's bad when any and every side does this tyranny against the people, man. But they just can't seem to see it. Here's a short video. They're protesting there in Tel Aviv against Netanyahu's regime, his government there. To end the war and get the hostages released. And as we reported here, I don't personally believe they give one hoot about these hostages. As we reported, they're carrying out the Hannibal Doctrine, which is kill the hostages before they even become hostages, because they don't even want the hassle of it. And we know they've implemented that all on October 7th and even before that. And so they say, oh, we're doing all this for the hostages. I don't believe it. Here is a short clip, if I can get it. A short clip of, I don't know, there's quite a few protesting there in Tel Aviv against Netanyahu. Let's play this short clip. So you can see the crowd there is, I don't know, quite a few people have showed up. They're getting tired of it too. And again, Netanyahu's he's facing his own legal problems there in Aardvark land due to corruption. Charges against him. He's facing trial right now. And a lot of people say that he needed October 7th to take the heat off him there domestically, because he was looking to be on his way out. And then, of course, what sweeps everything under the rug? A good war, a good terrorist attack, and then all your sins are forgotten because you're going to get those bad guys.
That makes sense, but it just seems that where we've gone with October 7th, the stakes are far beyond just some simple war. You know, it's unprecedented. You know, the expansion of Israeli. I mean, they're just going to clean out completely Gaza. That's not something that's done on a whim just to save your political. You know, this has been in the making for decades. So, I mean, it makes logical sense. We've seen governments do that, but I think, or maybe just best of both worlds. You know, it was a good time for him to. Maybe they were planning this later on down the line, and they're like, let's do it now. You know, so.
And some type of occult sacrifice as well is always in the background. I'm thinking about, well, this is some type of blood sacrifice as well, because they're all serving their cube, Saturn god over there that we see them put on the cube. Court upholds blockade on Gaza aid. The Aardvark Superior Court has unanimously rejected a petition aimed at compelling the government to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza, arguing that the international laws of belligerent occupation do not apply to Aardvark's actions in the region. So there you go. And then the Houthis have even said, we played the clip, they said, we'll stop shooting at your ships if you stop the blockade of food, medicine, clean water, and energy there into Gaza. And they're like, no, we didn't even hear that, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You're Iran terrorists. And it's like, no, they said, their leader said why they're doing this, and we just ignore it. Iran bad. Iran has nukes. It's just, there's the high court there in Aardvark land said, yeah, no problem with the blockade, which is a war crime, but yeah, who cares?
Yeah, I mean the Yemenis just seem to be the last. You know, all the other Gulf countries have sold out. They've gone fully globalist. Saudis,
Jordan.
I mean, Jordan's a complete vassal. UAE, Qatar's, and
Turkey. Turkey tries to talk big, but they never. Their actions nothing. They talk big, but they never do anything.
Yeah. I mean,
they were even saying they were doing an economic boycott and sanctions and all this. And then you look, oh, yeah, we're still trading with them, so it's okay.
No, it's mostly just opportunism, and it's this cult. I mean, you look at MBS in Saudi, like he's they're probably behind the scenes doing the life extensions with the Peter Thiels and the Brian Johnsons, and he's building the Maze Runner in Neom out there in Saudi, and so.
What do we got? One more last story here. Everybody, this is according to that one poll, YouGov yesterday. Everybody, America's favorite politician, Bernie Sanders, he is now set to force a Senate vote on blocking arms to Aardvark, arms sales. So Bernie Sanders there is now a Hamas terrorist, according to most. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders said on Thursday he would force votes next week on a resolution that would block $8.8 billion in arms sales to Aardvark land, citing the human rights crisis faced by Palestinians in Gaza.
Burning Sanders. I saw a Zero Hedge piece that a lot of the protesters that came to his supporters that came to his rally were the numbers were pumped, but
I reported on that. I remember that it was over. What was it, 20? And they said 34,000. It was really 20, something like that.
Yeah.
So there you go. Bernie is fighting the oligarchy now.
Yeah, with his, how many homes does he have? 3 or something?
He says we have to stop the billionaires because he's a millionaire. He used to be stop the millionaires, but now he's one. So it's the billionaires. All right. Anything else? You got anything else?
Well, yeah, I guess just one more that I had open still on my tab was this Irish teacher. I don't know if you follow Burke, Enoch Burke. He refused to use they, them pronouns for a child in his school. He'd been in prison for over a year. I think he got out. And now this week, the Irish government seized every penny of his 40,000 euro savings. So it's absolutely insane.
Just for not using the correct pronouns, or wow. I gotta be honest, I would just use the correct pronouns and say you guys are crazy, but whatever, man. I'm not going to jail over this. But I guess everybody has their line in the sand, and if that's where you want to make your stand, more power to you. All right. As always, thank you for joining us. Let's go to our channels quickly. Oh, yeah, by the way, are you on Rockfin?
Oh, I got kicked off.
Oh, you got kicked off too. So did we.
Yeah, I think they took most of the folks down. Yeah,
they did a big purge.
I feel like they're gonna collapse. I don't see a future for them.
Did you have any crypto in your wallet over there?
I had a small amount, and I mean, that was the
right?
that was the thing. They wanted us to do premium exclusive stuff for Rockfin, but it's like, how could we do that? Because you're a new outfit and you're most likely going to fail. And so what's going to happen to my exclusive content when it fails? Number one. And number two, we still live in a fiat world. You know, most of my supporters use their credit cards or whatever. And how am I supposed to get money out? How am I supposed to get donations through Rockfin, whatever funky currency, Ray, which then they switch to something else, and then I can't get money out. It's like, what? So
very shady dealings at Rockfin. And no communication whatsoever. None.
I mean, maybe they started out earnest, but I've interviewed a lot of folks on my TNT show, and I had on Float, this couple that created this.
I remember that. Whatever happened to Float?
They just died, right? And so Getter, I post everywhere I can, but I'm gonna start not posting. Like Getter, I think is dead. There's no life. Minds is dead. I've interviewed Bill Ottman of Minds. It's a great platform, but it's like no one's using it. It's dead. So why should I keep posting stuff into the ether? And Rockfin, I just feel like gut feeling. TNT radio went down. I quit TNT 6 months before they went down because I saw the writing on the wall, and I can see the writing on the wall with Rockfin. I don't think they're going to survive.
Definitely not kicking off all their creators or a bunch of them, and with no communication whatsoever, and stealing our fake crypto that they made us buy to even be on the stupid platform in the first place. Though I'll give them credit, they did give me a small microphone during the medical intervention when I was banned everywhere. I was allowed to yell to 2 people on Rockfin. So, yeah. Well, I'm glad you got kicked off there too, and they stole all your crypto too.
Well, I don't know. Is this still available? Because it's in the coin whatever wallet. So
I guess if you transferred it to your MetaMask wallet, then maybe. I don't know. I left mine on their platform because I don't know. It wasn't very much. It was like $40-$50 or something. You know what I mean? But Google stole like 88, I want to say, that was sitting in my Google AdSense account. And then they just deleted that and stole that from me. And it's like, whatever, $80. I can't sue them. It's not even worth it. But if they do that to 100,000 people, that's going to start adding up. You know what I mean? If they steal $80 from 100,000 people, that's adding up a little bit. So,
I mean, even stuff like Rumble, I've started purportedly getting my first couple hundreds of earnings in Rumble. And the only way to pay out is PayPal, and I'm banned from PayPal.
Oh,
so
damn.
how do I get my money out if the only way is PayPal? But so much for Peter Thiel founding PayPal.
Because you're mean to the PayPal mafia, so they banned you. Is that what happened?
No, I think. Well, this is going back to what I was saying earlier, and you're talking about the anti-war stance for YouTube. When I got banned from PayPal by the DHS, you look at the other crowd was Consortium News and Mint-Press News. It seems to have been for anti-war reasons that we got taken out. But it's like Rumble's supposed to be this alternative, but you got PayPal Mafia Peter Thiel, who finances Rumble, and you still only can pay out with PayPal. How is this, this being dissident? So
MAGA, free speech, they're the guys, right? Yeah, they got it all locked up, hemmed up. Monopoly, oligopoly, 100%. They're all meeting at the same occult ritual sacrifices. Make no mistake about it.
There was a great comment from Gerald Celente today. It was hilarious. JD Vance, he went to go eat food at the Marine Corps base Quantico mess hall. And Gerald Celente quote tweets, he says, "What an honor it must be for real men to sit with a Silicon Valley creation." That is JD Vance. So it's just,
I'm sure they were impressed there. Wow. Yeah. I guess we got to be nice to Peter Thiel. I've been mean to him a little bit, but hey, he's great. Putin's bad. I don't know what Trump's bad on YouTube, but he's good on Rumble. I don't know what to do to please these people, man. And they know it's all a joke behind the scenes, literally just laughing at us. So, I mean, come on, man. Let us have something here. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm on, nobody watches it, but I do load a show up to Access Television. That's how I even got my start in media, is Access Television here, Fresno CMAC in Fresno, California. So anyway.
The comment, though, what Barry Dutton mentions about Vance's eyeliner, that's something that I can't get out of my mind. Like, it's like he still continues to do it, and it's really quite annoying. It's like, what
Is that about? Is he like mocking?
Is
he mocking? Does he really think it makes him look cool? Like, what? That is bizarre, because there's all these memes about it, and maybe, I don't know, maybe he's just owning it.
I don't think it's a manly thing to do, to wear eyeliner. It's just kind of like, no, you know.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, awesome. Thank you. You spent 2 hours and 15 minutes with us here at Weaponized News. We do appreciate it. Let's plug you one more time before we wrap up this broadcast. Let's pull up your website here and plug away and let everybody know how to find your material.
Yeah, it's taco time, but yeah, people just, if they have disposable income, if they're comfortably, they have disposable stuff, they can subscribe to my Substack as a paid sub. But yeah, I do the podcast there. I pop out as many as I can per week, depending on the week. And yeah, I've interviewed everyone from, the Ron Pauls of the world and globalists. Also, sometimes I try to get some globalists on if they'll come on, and as well as people you've never heard of that just also are on the same frequency. So,
and there is all of your, it's
500 plus, 500 plus interviews going back to 2015. Geopoliticsandempire.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you for coming on to Weaponized News with us tonight on this Thursday. Let me go to the channels here quickly. We did have quite a chat in the Rockfin, but yeah, a couple people followed us over to the Odysee. Thank you guys for tuning in on Odysee. Barry's on every channel. Thank you, Barry. We got Huffman, we got Highland, we got Fat Bob over there, an OG on the Odysee. Thank you guys for keeping that chat lively. The old Rockfin, Rumble, excuse me, Rumble. We're no longer on Rockfin. I said it for like so long, you know what I mean? It's like in my brain, but no more Rockfin. They banned us for not playing by the rules. But over there, quite a chat going on the Rumble, and we appreciate you guys on the Rumble, as always, chatting it up and keeping it lively there. The Weaponized News Hounds, that was I made that up. No, it was actually it was Ruckus that made that up. But thank you, Ruckus, for that. Yeah, quite a chat going on over there. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in on the YouTube for what that's worth today. Thank you for that chat. The Bitchute, the X, and the Facebook. I think that covers everything. And we're on like Twitch, but that's for like video games. So I don't think Barry, I saw, did say we got a spammer on Twitch. So he said you've made it once that happens. I don't know. There's like 2 people watching on Twitch, because that's for video games and like chicks with cleavage playing video games or something. I don't know. But people watch it, and they're way bigger than us. We did have a cat on today. So also shout out to the cat Ruby for making an appearance. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening. We'll be back here tomorrow for our Friday edition of Weaponized News. And don't forget, we're doing a special Sunday censored edition, not on YouTube or Facebook, with scientists talking about some crazy stuff, the old germ terrain theory. And so that shall be very interesting, I think. But we can't be on the big platforms because they don't like that kind of talk. So it's going to only be on, we'll tell you more details tomorrow. And we're going to go ahead and have Barry here play us out. Oshawa City Council, Barry challenges mayor, and this is from 2012. But quickly, my story about this. So I was in the Tea Party when that was a thing here in Fresno County, and there was a spinoff group of the Tea Party, just simply called Concerned Citizens, right? And we would go to Denny's like every couple, like twice a 2 times a month or something like this, or maybe once a month, I forget. But we'd have our meetings. What are we going to do? Oh, we're going to go tell the government what's going on here with Agenda 21, because it was these people that had land. It was all older people. I was young, but I was like, yeah, Agenda 21. They want to burn you people out, get you off that land, which has happened now. And so we foretold the future by actually reading UN Agenda 21 at the time and knowing what the plan was and believing they were going to do it. Anyway, a bunch of people, older people from this group, had land up there, and they came up with this big old thick binder of all these recommendations for Fresno County Board of Supervisors about what to do for the upcoming forest fires that everybody said was going to happen, and burn all their property and burn their house down. And we took it to the Board of Supervisors, I forget, over a period of months, right? Because they only give you 3 minutes to talk, but you get on the agenda and then they give your group time to talk anyway. There's video. I did video of it somewhere on the interwebs, probably deleted now, but we did all this, gave them a bind. We did the county's work for public safety for the county of Fresno, compiled a dossier for them, gave them all this binder, nice binder, gave them all these different ideas about how to increase revenue, county tax revenue, and so on, and how to protect the forest from forest fires. All these recommendations had all these expert people, from insurance to talking to the firefighters, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, went to all these meetings, County Board of Supervisors, handed them the solution, told them, if you guys don't take action, we're going to have massive forest fires here. It's going to destroy a lot of property and put people's lives at risk. And you tell us that your number one priority is public safety. Here's a big solution for a problem that we know is going to happen in the very near future. And the County Board of Supervisors literally laughed in our face. And then like 2-3 years later, those fires did happen exactly how we said they were going to happen. And so that has blackpilled me on local political activism with my Fresno County Board of Supervisors, because we did the whole thing, let me tell you, like pros, man. And they literally just laughed in our face. And then the event happened, and hey, they still laugh in your face. And so that's my experience with it. But I don't want to blackpill people. You got to do something. Maybe if their property was at risk, I don't know what would spark a fire underneath your local government's butt. But anyway, here's Barry trying to do that same thing in Canada, Oshawa City Council, to play us out. Thank you again for joining us on this Thursday edition. And everybody have a great rest of your evening. And we'll watch Barry do his political activism.
They aren't very receptive. They aren't very responsive. There's 2 or 3 pretty good councilors on Oshawa City Council here, located on Center Street South, but by and large, they don't want to interact with all of us as taxpayers. And I've got nobody to hold my camera tonight. I thought I was going to have a few people here, but once again, it's 1 or 2 or a handful of people standing up for a whole community, and I'm willing to do that. I'm 40 years old. I pay taxes here. I've got 21 and a half years of real estate clients here as it sits in 2012. And the mayor is very heavy-handed. He's called in police lots of times on residents. Just over here, look over here. That's the Oshawa Public Library, and recently 13 cops, including 5 cruisers, each with 2 policemen in it, and the entire tactical unit was called out. Because we dared to question the Oshawa Public Library Board issues and their lack of transparency. I'll let you know that Councillor Roger Bauma, who just happens to be a longtime real estate agent in town, somebody that I know, thought I knew better. You're a real disappointment, Roger, in a lot more ways than one. He's a political suck-up, along with Mark Patton, who ran against me for Oshawa City Council in 2010. So did Ezra Quinton. He sits on the library board. And so did Will Thurber, another egg-headed political suck-up who has nothing to do with his time anything more than sucking up to a bunch of political higher-ups. So this is kind of a message about the library board that appears at this point to be heavily overfunded to the tune of somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million of our tax-paying dollars and our money. Nobody wants to talk about it at council. I'm going to tell you one thing. Councillor Sanders, Doug Sanders in Oshawa, you need to re-elect this guy because he showed up very quietly to the library board meeting, sat through the meeting, was harassed by outsourced security, was told that he couldn't even come into the room to a public meeting funded with taxpayer public dollars at the library board meeting. Some of that footage is available actually on Bill Steele's YouTube page. So the Oshawa Public Library, again, right there, they got lots of issues. They seem to have lots of staff, but nobody wants to discuss the balance sheets. They don't want to give copies of it to us. I stood up last week and asked for the last few meetings minutes. They said it won't be given to us. That's documented. I asked for video or audio links or digital links or copies. They said none will be given to us. Mark Patton threatened my personal privacy because I went in there and said my name is a taxpayer because they tried to demand all of the names of the four. Hear me when I say this. There was 4 residents in this meeting, along with Doug Sanders, who came in at about 7 o'clock, Councillor Doug Sanders. So when we pressed them for information as a group, myself, a fellow named Dan Hammond, there was another activist there who's an environmentalist, and Bill Steele came to film some footage. There was 4 of us plus Doug Sanders. And this heavy-handed public library board, which is overseen, okay, by the mayor, John Henry, he writes basically his own ticket here and says, well, I can't deal with the library board. They're an independent board. You know what, John? And same with you, Roger Bauma, Councillor Roger Bauma. You sit on the library board, Roger Bauma. Why can't you get your hands on information? Why do you allow people to tell the public taxpayers that we aren't allowed to get our hands on the information when they sit on this library board making very hard-handed, heavy-handed business decisions with all of our tax dollars that affects all of our kids, all of our futures, and all of the prosperity of this town known as Oshawa, the largest of the 8 municipalities in Durham Region, a town that I'm proud to call home, that I love, that I was born and raised in, that I'll fight to defend. What you're going to see here tonight, I'm not going to be able to cover very much, but Oshawa, I'm asking you to rise up, get involved, go to my Facebook page, go to my YouTube channel located at Barry Dutton Homes on YouTube. That's BarryDutton. Just go to YouTube and look up Barry Dutton and look at some of the footage on there about what's going on in my city. And you know what? Things like this might be going on in your city. It's going on in Clarington. It's going on in Whitby. These are the towns right next door to us as we sit in the middle of Oshawa. I care enough to get out here and risk my life and limb with a very heavy-handed bureaucracy. My question to you, Oshawa, Durham Region, Canada, is what are you willing to do for your community? I got nobody taping me tonight, and I'm still going to be out here yelling at council for a minute or two, asking a few questions. You may not agree with my methods all the time, everybody, but you know what? Writing letters only gets you so far, and when they don't return your emails, and they don't want to answer your questions at council or committee, I got lots of speeches where I ask lots of questions, and they don't get answered. I'm telling you, Oshawa, right now as it sits, there's 2 or 3 good councillors, but even as far as the library issues go, I would like to personally thank Councillor Doug Sanders, local councillor, City of Oshawa. I'm a proud Labour supporter like he is. I got no problems with most of the workers in this town, but it's some of the senior staff, management, and some of these brutal councillors that we have on city councillors in Oshawa and beyond, where basically there's no leadership, there's no backbone, and they ran on an accountability and a transparency platform. Well, that means you should act accountable and be accountable, and when you refuse to return emails and phone calls from your taxpayers, when you refuse to get documents for publicly funded buildings and library boards, and you're threatening to put a ethanol refinery on our harbor down here right beside the provincially significant wetlands of the Second Marsh, that's a problem. This is Oshawa City Hall. This cost us millions of dollars. Why? There's hardly any leadership in there. I've had some real good experiences with some really good staff and some good counsel over the last 2 or 3 years of me becoming politically involved. But tonight, you'll just see one man's effort to try to get some answers out of this city, and they won't listen to us many other ways. So this is my attempt to get them to listen. What you're seeing here, see that door right there? That door right there is the inside of the city chambers, where the council meeting is going on right now. Nobody wanted to come and film this for me, so I'm out here on my own. I'm going to just ask a few questions. None of this is rehearsed. Some people inside know that I'm out here. They didn't offer to help me. Bill Steele's in there. He wanted to stay in and film part of the meeting. I've got 2 or 3 other people that know, and one of my friends, Dan, is out of town. Why can't Oshawa rise up and do this together? In 2014, there's a municipal election. It is true that I ran for council in 2010. The problem with me is I'm just doing what I said I was going to do in 2010, which is basically roughly 2 to 2.5 years ago. I'm just doing the same things that my campaign speeches and my literature promised, and the things I said I was going to do. I said I was going to watch City Hall. I was going to watch staff and their behavior. I said I was going to watch expenditures, and that's what I'm doing. Why is City Hall trying to shut me down? Why is City Hall trying to shut other people down that are doing good things for the city and watching out for the residents when council should be doing it? Oshawa, rise up. There's a lack of leadership on Oshawa City Council. I'm saying 2014, the only person that I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that has been there for the residents all the way through, thick and thin, vote him back in, Councillor Doug Sanders, because the guy calls you back, he returns emails, he doesn't play politics, he doesn't play drama, he's a good blue-collar guy, and he gets things done. This isn't a shot at some of my other favorite councillors that I have in there, but you know what? All I know is what I know and how people have treated me. And if you've treated me fairly and consistently, then I'll be the same back to you. So, Oshawa, observe and report. And we'll see if our heavy-handed mayor, who has no leadership skills, his name's John Henry, make sure you don't vote him back in. The entire conservative agenda is running a lot of this stuff in City Hall. Approximately 7 out of 11 of our councillors, including the mayor, is basically part of the right-wing, far right-wing conservative agenda. I'm conservative fiscally too. And you know what? Sometimes being conservative is more than just what's in a word. We're exposing some truths here tonight that I don't think City Hall wants exposed. The library board doesn't want it exposed because, like I said, they called 13 police in last week, 5 cruisers, the entire tactical unit. John Henry has called, when we saved Harmon Park, and I was a lead activist in saving the Harmon Park rink in South Oshawa this past January, he called the police in there too, and right about 9 police showed up, and they left a few minutes later. Why? Because this mayor, John Henry, and Councillor Roger Bauma have no leadership skills, and they're heavy-handed, and they're arrogant, and I would say we would question if they have a spine or not, in some senses of the word. So sorry I got nobody to hold my camera, but I'll do the best that I can. Once again, go to Barry Dutton on YouTube, Barry Dutton on Facebook. I'm just a council watcher and a regular blue-collar guy. People in town are started calling me the uncouncillor, or blue-collar Barry. They call me the uncouncillor because, like you, I'm fed up with what government's doing. I am fed up with what they're not doing for us and to help us. I don't like the way council runs their business. I don't like who's running City Hall and the way that they're arrogant and refuse to turn emails and respond to citizen requests. I think it's wrong. And in 2014, when you go to the election polls out there in whatever city you're in watching this, make sure you do your homework on the candidates you put into local office or your regional office, because it'll make a difference. And this is just one of my most recent attempts to try to get City Hall to listen to us. I don't speak for all of you, but I speak for some of you, wherever you are watching this.
what's going on in our city, department, perhaps a $3 million surplus, and a lot of staff working there. Roger Bauma, you sit on the library board. You campaigned like John Henry did, like everybody did in there, on transparency and accountability. My question to you is this, Oshawa Council, John Henry, the mayor, Roger Bauma, where's the accountability and transparency that you ran on? Why do we have to resort to these tactics in order to get answers out of Oshawa City Hall? We pay your salaries. You serve us. It's not the other way around. Why will you support the Oshawa Public Library in hiding documents from the public when it's on the record that we've asked for it? Why do you call in police and security to be heavy-handed with residents?
Can you please stop?
No. Right now, I'm being challenged by also security. Are you telling me that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2, that you have more power than the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Is that what you're saying? Security, do you have more power than the Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Do you know what Section 2 says?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I do.
Do you know if the mayor knows?
Yes, he does.
Do you know if Roger Bauma knows?
Yes, he does.
Then I will continue my protest. Thank you for your time.
You can protest as long as you don't interfere with everybody else.
I don't mean to disturb anybody in council, like residents, but you know what, John? If you're not going to listen to us, John Henry and Roger Bauma and other people trying to tax seniors and tax little children and call the police on regular people and regular residents that are the taxpayers and stakeholders that make this city run, what kind of leadership are you showing? Why do we have to do things like this, John Henry, Mayor, Roger Bauma, Councilor? Why don't you return our calls? Why don't you return our emails? Where's the documentation for the library board? You say you're arm's length from it. Let me ask you this, John Henry. If you're arm's length and you don't want to get in the library's business, then why do you have Roger Bauma, a councilor, duly appointed and sitting on the library board? Why did Roger Bauma the other night say that he couldn't do anything for a $30,000 capital expenditure for a scanner until he heard from City Hall? Which one of you knows what's going on? Roger Bauma, are you lying? John Henry, are you lying? Or do you just not know what's going on? I'm still waiting. Why do you call in police and security for heavy-handed tactics? Because you refuse to listen to the taxpayers. Why was I asked tonight by security to remove a water bottle from City Hall during the meeting so I could stay hydrated? That's important. Roger Bauma, maybe you should step down from council. Maybe you should get off the library board. You are a political suck-up. John Henry, you have no leadership skills. You hide things and you do not want to be transparent to the residents of this city. I will fight for this city. I'll do it alone tonight like I'm doing now, and I'll do it next week, and I'll do it the week after until you start paying some respect to the taxpayers of Oshawa. I love this city. I will fight for it. You should know that by now. That concludes this portion of this week's protest at Oshawa City Council. City Hall, City Hall. Who among you is the least transparent of all? Roger Bauma and John Henry. That's my vote. Good night. You want to hold that? No. I'd like to thank everybody watching for my one-man protest tonight, and I'd like to thank Tamara for coming on out. Tamara is on the side of the taxpayers and the residents. We have had our differences, but it's good to have somebody out here helping me. Thanks, Tamara.
You're welcome.
If you need to get a hold of any information at Oshawa City Hall, email clerks@oshawa.ca and ask them what's going on with the library board, what's going on at Oshawa City Hall. And I would like to point out, right over here, walking back into the library,
in the Paragon security shirt is who I believe identified himself last week as the QP 960 president, who has been harassing my friend Daniel Hammond. You wanted the name of my YouTube channel?
Yeah.
It's Barry Dutton Holmes. Want a business card?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, have you voted?
Yes, I have.
Do you feel City Hall's doing a good job?
I'm not sure. I'm not very well informed on the subject, but there were some things you said that have raised concern in my mind, including a $30,000 expenditure on a scanner.
Right. I appreciate your honesty. If you need me, I'm here at every council meeting.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah,
have a good night.
Yeah.
It's okay. Do you guys know what's going on at City Hall?
No. Tell us a little about it.
I think I just did. I do have to get back in there. That's a city council meeting. Do you want to come into the city council meeting with me?
Right now?
Yeah, man. Let's go in. Bring your skateboards. Giddy up.
Let's do this. Cool. Yeah.
I'm going to keep this thing rolling in case we get harassed on the way in.
Cool, man.
See, this is just talking to the regular residents of any town, Canada. We just happen to be in Oshawa tonight. Thanks. Let's go to city council.
Come on, man. Come on, dude.
Hello. I'm Barry.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay.
Get my email?
Not sure.
Sent you an email the other day.
We have the third piece of correspondence from Mr. John Arkelly.
I'd refer that to item 2 of the 16th report of development services also.
So it's been referred to item 3. Seconded by Councillor Wood. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, Councillor Diamond, you have a motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a motion to add Corporate Services Committee report to the public consent agenda. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Paula, that the 9th report of the Corporate Services Committee be added to the public consent agenda for the May 22nd, 2012 council meeting. That's this afternoon's meeting.
Yes. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Wood, you have the motion to add bylaws?
Yes, I do, Your Worship. The motion to add bylaws to the public consent agenda by myself, moved by myself, second by Councillor Tito Dante Marapietri, that bylaws 49-2012 for the 2012 final tax billing and 50-2012 for the Central Business District Improvement Area 2012 tax billing be added to the public consent agenda for the May 22nd, 2012 council meeting.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Wood, you have the motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Sanders, that all items listed under the public